Chapter 3105. When he turned to look, he saw the little stoic's serious face with a hint of frigid disdain. She dared to capture Sir Jojo with this gall. She simply didn't know what to say. Arbor lightly raised his left wrist and shouted, "Take this." That devil-masked man involuntarily snorted. After being tricked by this child once, did she think there would be a second time? The devil-masked man's eyes abruptly widened. By the time he realized that the concealed weapon was already in front of him, it was already too late to dodge. He could only shout, and a piece of divine armor appeared on his chest. That concealed weapon clanged as it landed on his chest, but it was blocked by the divine armor. The devil-masked man involuntarily snorted. "Little fellow, you think this little toy can boom?" Boom. Duan Yu turned to look at where Sir Jojo was crouching, and couldn't resist facepalming when he saw the devil-masked man's figure that had been blasted flying. This dear friend was too naive. Didn't he know that the power of his mother-child chain explosion was a level higher than ordinary hidden weapons? Even a full-body divine armor might not be able to block that chain explosion, let alone a piece of divine armor. After the devil-masked man flew out pitifully, the little girl stood up from behind the rock and looked down at her shoes that were stained with raindrops in dissatisfaction. Just as Emolien flashed to her side, he saw the little stoic expressionlessly looking up and pointing at her small shoes. They got wet. Prince Emo instantly felt like he was about to be melted by the little fellow's cuteness. He quickly picked her up from the ground and said with a grin, "Hubby will change a new pair of shoes for you in a bit. A brand new one with lotus flowers embroidered on it." The little fellow expressionlessly curled her lips. Boom! The devil-masked man who was blasted away once again exploded. Everyone involuntarily blushed with shame and turned to look in that person's direction. That guy was truly pitiful enough. Tell me, why did he provoke the little stoic for no reason? Being killed once wasn't enough, he was killed 3 times in a row. After the mother-child chain exploded, the devil-masked man's body exploded again. This time, it was a talisman filled with lightning soul that exploded. His entire body was crackling with electricity, being washed by the rain. That sour and refreshing feeling made everyone shiver from afar. However, that devil-masked man could be considered a tough guy. After being blasted 3 times in a row, he flipped himself up and stood up again with electric currents sizzling all over his body. He held a black iron rod in his hand. Because his whole body was electrified, his hands were numb. He subconsciously threw away the rod in his hand. He seemed to be very angry. His face couldn't be seen clearly under the mask, but his whole body was filled with anger, like the prelude to a volcanic eruption. Everyone mourned for him for 3 seconds, then turned back to continue fighting with the man in black in front of them. Jojo, who was carrying her umbrella, looked at the man expressionlessly. She then turned to ask Emolien, "Have we met this devil-masked man before? Do you still remember our battle at June Mountain's Yuting Court on Seacombe Planet? At that time, Siming Manor's high priest wore an iron demon mask and led many people to encircle and annihilate us." Arbor shook his head and recalled a bit of an impression. Chapter 3106. After that, outside the Great Gale Forest, the high priest was surrounded by us, and his identity was exposed. In the end, he was killed. Arbor thought carefully and nodded. What does the dead high priest have to do with this devil-masked man? The high priest's mask is made of iron. Emolien muttered. And this devil-masked man's mask seems to be of a higher standard than the high priest's. This man's mask is made of silver, and there's a layer of purple light on it. I think he should be a hall master in Tianyin. Arbor looked back and nodded. You're right. The people from Tianyin came here to ambush. I think they're here for me. Arbor had a strange thought. For a moment, she seemed to have thought of something, but that thought flashed through her mind very quickly. She was a little depressed that she didn't catch anything. Emolien looked down at the little fellow and shook his head. That might not be the case. Look at their operation this time. It's obviously very methodical. It must have been planned long ago. So they might not be here for my Jojo. Emolien rubbed against her little face. Don't worry, I'm here for you. Sir Jojo looked at him expressionlessly. You rubbed the blood in your hair on my face. Emolien could not help but want to laugh. He reached out and rubbed her little face. I'm covered in blood. No matter what, I have to stain you with a drop or two. This is called sharing blessings and suffering together. Then, he carried her to Qi Xian and the others. Is everyone all right? Everyone hurriedly shook their heads. Many people from the other academies were injured. I think the two Surdos were too busy to save them. Those in the academy, who know a little about medicine, have all gone to help. Put me down. I'll go take a look. Arbor said mildly. Your shoes are wet. Emolien said in amusement. Arbor glanced at him. Didn't you say you were going to give me a new pair of shoes embroidered with lotus flowers? Everyone. This conversation sounded weird no matter how one listened to it. Emolien laughed heartily as he put down his wifey. Jojo carried her umbrella and walked towards the ward. When she got closer, she realized that there were quite a lot of people. Although Madame Goen didn't know any medical skills, her powder could help alleviate pain, so she also helped. When Goengua turned around and saw the little stoic walking over with a stoic expression, he subconsciously shuddered and pulled Huang Yang back several steps to the side. The young lady didn't even look at her. She walked towards a Hongfu Academy student who was holding his arm and wailing. What are you wailing for? He was a grown man, yet he was howling like a girl. Shut up. The man's expression froze, and he actually shut his mouth, cold sweat dripping down his face. Hand. Sir Jojo shouted expressionlessly. The student from the Hong Family Academy was nervous and quickly stretched out his hand. Then he turned to look at Madame Goen, who was cowering in a corner like a quail. Come here. Madame Goen's heart skipped a beat, and she almost peed her pants from fright. She had already decided not to provoke her again. So why? Why was she still unwilling to let her off? And Madame Crown Princess, what do you want? Hold the umbrella. Arbor impatiently raised the umbrella. Madame Goen quickly reached out to take it, and held up the large umbrella for her, with a bewildered expression. Chapter 3107. Arbor raised his finger, and took out a row of silver needles from his inner world. Each of the needles sparkled with a bright light, and lined them up in front of her. She took out a few needles, and inserted them extremely quickly without batting an eyelid. Then, her small hand patted and pressed on that person's arm, and a crack was heard. At first, that person was in so much pain that tears and snot flowed down, but he felt the pain abruptly disappear within 2 seconds. Just as he was about to open his mouth to ask, a pill flew into his mouth. It melted in his mouth and disappeared without a trace in 3 seconds. The medical fee is 10,000 spirit coins, and the pill is 100,000 spirit coins. Arbor said aloofly, and shouted at the dumbstruck Madame Goen. What are you spacing out for? Write it down. Madame Goen hastily nodded. She held an umbrella with one hand, and took out a pen and paper from her inner world with the other, hastily writing it down. The little stoic's small face was cold as she circled the crowd. The Doe brothers felt that the number of patients around them was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Doe Fingmian couldn't help but sigh in relief. He turned around and nodded gratefully at the little stoic. Thank you for your help. The little stoic's small face was wooden as she glanced at him expressionlessly. I need money. Young Master Doe felt all sorts of feelings welling up in his heart. It was truly difficult to approach the little lady. The little lady always had the idea of settling the debt with strangers. Both sides didn't know each other anything, and didn't need to worry about the other's favor. The little stoic was a little freak. It was very difficult for her to owe you a favor, but it was even more difficult to owe her a favor. This unapproachable attitude was really making people feel uncomfortable in their hearts. Hall Master. They themselves aren't weak. What's more, Holy Sun Mi Yin actually brought the people of the Divine Hall to make trouble. A masked man in black flashed to the side of the ghoul masked man, and said in a deep voice, I think we have to carry out another plan. We can't wait any longer. A cold glint flickered in the depths of the devil-masked Hall Master's eyes. After muttering to himself for a few seconds, he said, My lord's meaning is that it's better to capture them alive. But if we can't capture them alive, it's fine if they're dead. That person couldn't help but be a bit anxious. After all, these people's strength isn't ordinary. The ghost face Hall Master's gaze froze on everyone. The The black-clothed masked man couldn't help but feel anxious. Hall Master, why are you hesitating? What are you talking about? Another masked man in black flashed to his side. Without saying a word, he raised his hand and slapped the other party in the face. Is this how you talk to the Hall Master? Enough, the ghost-faced Hall Master said coldly. All of you leave. Let me think about it. The man who was slapped in the face glared at the person who slapped him. His gaze was as cold as the tip of a knife, piercing into the other party. However, the latter didn't seem to care at all. She just glanced at him indifferently and then sneered. What? You're not convinced? Do you want to be beaten again? The masked man thought about it again and again. He felt that he couldn't defeat the other party, so he didn't go forward to humiliate himself. Although he was unwilling, he still retreated angrily. The Ghostface Hall Master frowned as he stared at the two parties fighting in the distance. Although we brought a lot of people, the other party's strength is really not bad. Moreover, the pills in that little stoic's hands indeed seem to be pretty good. Her level of healing is also quite impressive. Chapter 3108. From the looks of it, it seems like we have the upper hand right now, but as time passes, we'll definitely be at a disadvantage. Master wants us to kill her if we can't capture her alive. Hall Master, you should make a decision soon. The Ghostface Hall Master turned around and swept him a cold glance. What can a little girl change? Master is truly too cautious. That masked man chuckled. It's precisely because of this caution that Master was able to secretly develop our organization to this extent. The Ghostface Hall Master didn't say anything else. He muttered to himself for a moment before nodding slightly. Execute Plan B then. Arbor raised his small hand and took the full consultation fee bill from Madame Goen's hand. He was about to leave. Just as he was about to leave, he saw Ollie supporting a person over and shouting anxiously. Quick, quick! Young Master Do, quickly come over and take a look. No need to be so nervous, it's just a small scratch. Ming Yasi involuntarily shook his head when he saw his younger brother making a big fuss with bulging veins. He was currently looking down at the wound on his arm that was grazed by an arrow. When he looked up, he just happened to see the little stoic's expressionless face. His heart skipped a beat for no reason, and Ming Yasi opened his mouth to speak. On the side, Ollie blocked in front of him defensively and glared at Arbor. Get out of the way. Don't block the way if you have nothing better to do. Don't think that I don't dare to hit you just because you little girl's body has shrunk. I'm the kind of person who can even hit an 80-year-old woman, let alone a damn girl like you. Ollie put on a strong front, but was actually weak inside. But he was a bit apprehensive as he looked at Arbor in his heart. To tell the truth, after a few encounters, he had truly suffered many losses at the hands of this little girl. Now that he saw her for the first time, he felt goosebumps for no reason. He had already mustered all the courage in his life to be able to shout at someone. Arbor glanced at him coldly and was about to turn around and leave without bothering to say another word to him. However, he heard Ming Yasi growl, "Stop right there. Big brother." Ollie instantly tensed up. Fuck, he had just chased that stoic face away. And Big Brother actually called out to her? Big Brother. He didn't have the ability to defeat the little stoic. Arbor glanced back, his eyes cold and cheerless, with 30% alienation and 70% indifference, completely heartless and thorough. Ming Yasi's hand shrunk back slightly. His eagle-like eyes stared fixedly at the young lady in front of him as he coldly ordered, "Come and treat my injuries." Arbor couldn't be bothered with this egomaniac. He jumped down from the rock and took the umbrella that Madame Goen handed to him. He then turned around and rushed towards Qi Xianxian and the others. Unexpectedly, Ming Yasi was tall and his strides were large. In just a few steps, he had already blocked her path. What? You only know how to poison people and not save people? Looks like it's because your medical skills aren't good enough. Ming Yasi's lips curled as he indifferently said, "Why don't we make a bet? If you can heal my wounds within a minute, I'll give you 1,000,000 spirit coins, plus a stalk of our Ming province's unique purple netherworld grass. How about it?" Sir Jojo, who was about to leave halfway through, suddenly turned back and raised a small hand, extending it in his direction. Ming Yasi snickered inwardly, and took out a stalk of grass glowing with purple light from his inner world. Chapter 3109. Lady Xiqiao tilted her head and looked at him carefully for a while. Then, she raised her head and nodded at him with a cold expression. Haha. Ollie couldn't help but roll his eyes. You haven't even seen the injury on my brother's arm, and you've already agreed to it. What if you can't do it? Why is he so annoying? Xiaomu coldly glanced at Ollie and retorted. Isn't it annoying for a man to talk so much? Where am I? How is he annoying? Didn't he just open his mouth and ask a question? How is he annoying? Annoying? Are you going to shut him up or not? Arbor said coldly. Brother, look at her. Shut up, Yisi said coldly. Ollie suddenly felt as though the sky was falling. He turned his head, his eyes glistening with tears as he looked pitifully at his brother. Yisi patted him on the shoulder. I'm trying to save you. You don't want to be a mute for the rest of your life, do you? Mingyas casually found a damp rock and sat down. He raised his arm slightly and said with a cold expression, Watch. Lady Qiao Qiao walked forward and stepped on the water on the ground. She jumped onto the rock beside him and squatted down. My arm was injured by Emolien before, Yisi said coldly. Now that he's injured, that's just adding to his injuries. Are you sure you can heal him in one go? Dark Yes asked coldly. If it wasn't for Emolien, how could those men in black hurt me? Can you shut up? Arbor looked up at him impatiently. The two men looked at each other. One was cold and frosty, while the other was suppressing his emotions that were about to explode. You're being unfair to me, Yisi suddenly said. Sir Jojo rolled his eyes in annoyance. He listened to the man's nagging, but he didn't slow down. A few silver needles fell, helping to correct the dislocated tendons and veins. Then, she gathered a stream of water in her hand and gently washed the wound. When the clotted blood was washed away, the fresh blood inside was revealed. Xiaomu expressionlessly took out a blood-staunching powder and slapped it on his arm. Then, he rubbed it a few more times, causing the guy to grimace in pain as he moved his arm slightly. However, he resisted the pain and didn't let out a groan. You were also so heavy-handed when applying medicine for Emolien and Duanyu? Arbor couldn't be bothered with him. He took out a box of ointment, mixed it in his hand, and applied it on his wound. Hiss! Mingyas only felt that although the ointment was cool and refreshing, there was an indescribable bone-piercing pain that flowed beneath the surface of his skin. It was as if this little girl had thorns. When he touched her casually, his hand was really full of bumps. You're just secretly rejoicing, Arbor grumpily said. After rubbing my hemostatic powder with a clot-dispersing ointment for 3 minutes, I guarantee you'll be fully healed in a matter of minutes. If it weren't for that stalk of purple nether grass, who would rub his wound for him? Bah! Give it to me. Yisi pursed his lips and folded his slender legs. He directly took out a bag of spirit coins and a stalk of purple nether grass from his inner world and tossed them to the little fellow. This crown prince is a man of his word. Could it be that I would deceive a little girl like you? Chapter 3110. Arbor glanced at him and kept everything he had given him back into his inner world. Then he used a finger to press him onto the wet rock. Sit properly. Hey, I've already paid for your treatment. Can't you treat me a little better? Arbor took out a piece of ointment and applied it to his wound with a plop. The guy grimaced in pain and frowned. Sir Jojo was secretly delighted. He snorted. That's what you get for being so annoying. Next time, when you see Sir Jojo, you'll be reminded of the pain you're going through. Hurry up and stay as far away from Sir Jojo as possible. Are you doing this on purpose? Mingyas frowned and sat up cross-legged. You couldn't have done something to the ointment to make me suffer, right? Sir Jojo looked at him expressionlessly. You don't believe me. I believe you. Mingyas was startled. He nodded and said helplessly. Fine. Do it. I won't blame you even if I die from the pain, all right? Sir Jojo snorted in his heart and went a little gentler. This person was annoying and had a bad mouth, but he was still a tough man. Sir Jojo had added 10 times the amount of ointment that stimulated pain in his wound. He was still able to endure it and not make a sound. He really was a man, forget it. I can't be bothered to lower myself to his level. I'll beat him up with my real strength in the future. I won't do these fancy things. Sir Jojo thought to himself, and removed the ointment that stimulated his wound. The little girl lowered her head, her expression somewhat focused as she helped him treat the injury on his arm. Ming Yas stared at her in a daze. Although the rain was pouring down, he couldn't see the little girl's delicate face clearly through the curtain of rain. But for some reason, he had a faint illusion that at this moment, he was very close to her. So close that he could touch her if he stretched out his hand. Boom. An earth-shattering boom rang out, startling Ming Yasi so much that he retracted his hand slightly. His fingers brushed past Arbor's sideburns as he raised his head. That voice instantly resounded throughout the entire canyon, startling a series of hoarse-flying black crows and arrow hawks. Ming Yas immediately propped himself up with one hand, and subconsciously raised his hand to pull the little girl behind him. Hey, there seems to be an unforeseen event. A hurried howl came from outside the crowd, accompanied by the Holy Sun's calm voice. Stay calm. Up, up. Everyone, go to the Rocky Mountain and hide for a while. A few students from the Hongfu Academy immediately turned around and climbed up the stone wall. Just as they were about to climb up, they were forced back down by a rain of arrows. Behind the rocks on both sides of the passageway, on the towering rock walls, a dozen or so pitch-black and shiny cannons were pushed out, appearing extremely bright under the night sky. Spirit Stone Cannon? Everyone's hearts couldn't help but tremble as they stared at the dozen or so cannons that were emitting black light. The Holy Sun cursed inwardly. These people occupied the high ground. If the cannons fired a few shots at them, they would really be finished. Everyone below, listen up. At this moment, the ghastly face hall master occupied the advantageous terrain and shouted to the crowd from above. If you don't want to die, stand out from the crowd immediately. Hand over a strand of your soul and submit to Tianyin. Chapter 31:11. Bah! A tribe's boar spat on the ground and cursed with arms akimbo. A bunch of cowards. Come down and continue fighting with Grandpa if you have the guts. Holy Sun Mi Yan's eyelid twitched, and he was about to berate this boar. However, that Ghostface Hall master raised his hand slightly. A cold glint blossomed in his eyes, and he heavily slammed his palm down. Boom! With the sound of a robe, that boar was instantly sent flying by the Spirit Stone Cannon and exploded into fireworks in the air with a bang. Copious amounts of blood mixed with the rain and sprinkled down. Everyone was so shocked that they stood rooted to the spot, and their pupils involuntarily contracted. That fellow was a cultivator at the 7th level of the spirit realm. His soul was scattered with a single blow from the Spirit Stone Cannon, and the other party currently had more than a dozen Spirit Stone Cannons with such power. Could they still have a way out? Ming Yasi creased his brows and reflexively pulled Sir Jojo's small body back. Xiao Qiao had originally wanted to take small steps forward, but in the end, she was pulled back again. Swish! A plain white figure abruptly appeared in front of him. Ming Yasi gripped his sword and was about to attack when he clearly saw Duan Yu's face through the rain and mist. This fellow truly looked like a freaking ghost. His plain white clothes were untainted by the rain, and his long hair fluttered slightly under the night sky. His narrowed eyes flickered with cold lightning as he sized Ming Yasi up from head to toe. Then, his gaze landed on Ming Yasi's bandaged arm. Ming Yasi didn't realize that he was slightly relieved. His hand paused, and he couldn't resist grumbling. What are you doing? You can't even make a sound when you walk. Why was it so annoying when it floated around like a malicious spirit? Duan Yu gazed deeply at him, and with a turn of his figure, he arrived behind Duan Yu. He picked up Lady Qiao Qiao, who was holding an umbrella to watch the show, and swiftly retreated without a word. Ming Yasi frowned in surprise, but he didn't say anything. He merely reached out to block his eyes and tilted his head to avoid a glaring light. Where's the little girl next to you? The Ghostface Hall master asked as he looked at him coldly. Ming Yasi couldn't help but be taken aback. He immediately realized something and sneered. None of your business. Ollie was so frightened that his heart nearly jumped out of his chest. He hastily stepped forward and blocked in front of his big brother. He harshly shouted at the hall master. Punk, don't act recklessly, I'm telling you. This is His Highness the Crown Prince of Ming. If you dare to harm the Crown Prince of Ming, you're finished. The Crown Prince's left, The one on the left. The one on the left couldn't help but snort. What? Why don't you tell me? The Ghostface Hall Master obviously didn't like this person talking too much. He raised his eyes and gave the person a warning look. You! Of Ming! Exclamation point. S. Yasi! Exclamation point. Bang! Ming Yasi's pupils contracted, and he grabbed Ali's arm, dragging him to dodge the attack. After a huge rumble, the rock walls on both sides of the valley started trembling again. Sand and rocks tumbled down, and they only stabilized after shaking for a good while. Chapter 31:12. Everyone's expressions changed again and again, and they all involuntarily shrunk their necks. They felt the cold wind and rain pouring into their hearts, depriving them of even the last trace of warmth. At this rate, even if they weren't blasted to smithereens by the spirit stone cannons, they would be buried alive by the rocks on both sides. A gigantic pit appeared next to Dark Yas. Everyone stayed far away from that pit, as they looked in horror at that heavenly Kismet's ghoulish hall master. Sir Jojo knitted his brows and turned to look at Duan Yu, who had a grave expression. He whispered, "Later, we'll take advantage of the chaos to hide on Paradise Planet." She couldn't care less about the other people's lives. At least, she had to ensure that her companions were all intact. In this current situation, it was obvious that fighting head-on was not the best choice. Besides the archers, there were also the spirit stone cannons above them. Everyone had witnessed the might of those spirit stone cannons with their own eyes earlier. A level 7 spiritual cultivator would become cannon fodder in a matter of minutes. She naturally couldn't let everyone take the risk. So the best solution now was to hide on Paradise Planet. As for the others, they had to pray for their own good fortune. She wasn't a savior, so how could she save so many people? Duan Yu looked down at her and reassured with a smile. "Don't worry, it'll be fine." Where's my Lien?" Arbor recalled that she hadn't seen her Lien for a long time, and her small head looked left and right. She then glanced at Duan Yu suspiciously with a stoic expression. "You two didn't secretly do something big behind my back again, right?" "We didn't." Duan Yu helplessly glanced at her. "Later, if we can avoid hiding on Paradise Planet, then don't go in to avoid being discovered. That Hall Master's strength is very extraordinary, but there's still a mighty figure hiding behind him." Arbor couldn't help but be shocked. Her divine conscience could sense the fluctuations of that Hall Master's divine energy, but she couldn't sense anyone else. This meant that the cultivation of the person behind the Hall Master was probably more than just a bit higher than hers. If it weren't for Duan Yu's reminder, she wouldn't have known that there was someone hiding behind the Hall Master. "That person is only a strand of divine conscience hiding here," Duan Yu said softly. Arbor was even more shocked when he heard this. Just a strand of divine sense was already so powerful. It could be seen that the person's cultivation base was probably above Mo Lien's. Arbor looked at Duan Yu worriedly and said, "Forget it. If it's really dangerous later, we'll..." "Jojo. In short, I can't just stand by and watch all of you fall into danger. At most, the fact that I have a spirit domain will be exposed. If it is exposed, then it is exposed. In any case, we and Tian Yun are already life and death enemies. Even if there is no such thing, others will not let us go so easily. Moreover, no one could enter her spirit domain without the power to tear open the void. Even someone like Mo Lien, who had just grasped the power of the void, couldn't find her spirit domain, let alone others. How many people in the world could tear the void apart? Arbor was willing to gamble for them. Duan Yu couldn't help but look down at her helplessly. Although Jojo said so, he still didn't want her to be in danger unless it was absolutely necessary. If she pulled everyone into the peach blossom now, they would be able to avoid this crisis. However, the exposure of her spirit domain was no joke. How many busybodies would covet it and chase it down? Duan Yu almost didn't dare to think about it. Chapter 31:13. At that time, his Jojo would never have a day of peace. He didn't want her to have to live such a life. After all, anyone with keen eyesight would naturally be able to smell something unusual. If the aura of the opening of the spirit domain leaked out, even normal cultivators would be able to sense it, let alone that mighty figure hiding behind the Hall Master. No way, he couldn't let Jojo bear this kind of danger. He didn't tell Jojo that the Hall Master was a peak venerable immortal, not someone anyone could casually provoke. Duan Yu reflexively grasped her petite hand. You're not allowed to act on your own. We will resolve this matter, just do as you say. Sir Jojo rolled his eyes. That Hall Master is still calling for me. I'll go meet him and buy some time for Lien. How could the little fellow not understand? Jojo's Lien must have snuck away by herself. Otherwise, why wouldn't he appear by now? These two must have secretly discussed a countermeasure, and just wouldn't tell Jojo. Duan Yu couldn't help but chuckle bitterly as he poked her head. What can you do with your short stature and short legs? You're the short stature and short legs. Watch me. She kicked her 2 short legs. I'll go buy some time. Jojo. Seeing her glare, Duan Yu had no choice but to let go of her and put her on the ground. Don't worry. What can happen to me? I'm just chatting with them. Sir Jojo patted her calf. Right, her height only reached his knee. How heart-wrenching. She was indeed short enough. Was she ever so short when she was young? Impossible. Duan Yu couldn't resist wanting to laugh. But he was also a bit worried. With Qiao Qiao's stoic face and her attitude of chatting with people for 2 years, what kind of nonsense could she talk to others about? Duan Yu's gaze was fixed on this bean sprout-like person as she strode toward the front of the crowd. Ollie was quarreling with the ghost mask hall master. When he lowered his head, he saw the short legs walking over and looking at them expressionlessly. Ollie almost choked on his breath. Fuck. They had been feigning civility with her for a long time, arguing until their faces were red and their necks were thick. But they still hadn't exposed her. Why did this short-legged girl come over for no reason? Was he in a hurry to expose himself in front of everyone? Ming Yasi turned around and his face darkened. What are you doing here? Go back. His hawk-like gaze scanned the surroundings before glaring fiercely at the innocent-looking Duan Yu. Why aren't you bringing her back? What's a little brat like you doing? Your whole family is full of brats. Lord Jojo's face darkened as he pushed aside Mayaz's outstretched arm and walked to the front of the crowd. He raised his head and looked at the ghost face hall master. Your great aunt is here. What nonsense do you have to say? Spit it out. Everyone was speechless. The masked man on the right hurriedly looked back. He could feel that the corner of his hall master's mouth was twitching under the mask. This lousy child still called herself great aunt. Whose great aunt are you? Xiao Mu surveyed her surroundings before fixing her gaze on that grim-faced hall master. She took 2 steps forward and stared fixedly at him for quite a while before turning her small face hesitantly and asking crisply, Have I seen you somewhere before? No. Xiao Mu looked him up and down. What business do you have with me? Speak. Sister 18. Chapter 31:14. The Ghostface Hall Master suddenly calls out. A lightning-like figure lands in front of Arbor with a boom. Half of the rotting face turned around, and half of the white eye was staring at her without blinking. Lord Jojo hurriedly takes a step back and crosses his arms in a defensive posture. Why are you so ugly? Can't you find a good-looking corpse puppet to fight with me? That Ghostface Hall Master chuckles. Little girl, if you lose today, you have to obediently leave with us. Are you willing to abide by this bet? Arbor says expressionlessly. Then what if I win? The Ghostface Hall Master rolls his eyes. If you win, this Hall Master will send 17th Sister to fight with you. Shameless. The little girl angrily shouts. Then what about your 17th Sister? There are still so many sisters above her. You want me to fight so many matches by myself? The Ghostface Hall Master chuckles. Don't you like to fight the most? Now I will give you a chance. Are you willing to accept it? Not really. Arbor says indifferently. She is not stupid. If she loses, she has to go with them. If she wins, she has to continue to accept other people's challenges. Only if she is crazy would she accept such an unfair bet. That is really a pity, the Ghostface Hall Master says with a smile. Then I can only send 15th Sister to besiege you. Arbor chuckles. You sent 15th Sister to besiege me. Do you think I don't have anyone here? Then you can't let others help you. The Ghostface Hall Master shakes his head and says with a smile, "If you let others help you, then I will call people to blast that guy into pieces." The crowd below is in an uproar. Other than Qi Xianxian, Situ Yi and their group of friends, everyone in the group retreats 18 steps away from Arbor. But Holy Sun Mi Yin only stands there with a cold expression and does not move half a step. The priests and guards behind him originally wanted to retreat with the crowd, but when they saw that their holy son did not move at all, they were too embarrassed to continue retreating. "Okay." The little girl nodded reluctantly. "I'll fight with Qizheng. If I lose, I'll leave with you. If I win, I'll continue to fight with 17th sister." The Ghostface Hall Master laughed. "Little girl, you have to be careful." As soon as the Hall Master's voice fell, the 18th sister swung her messy hair and roared. With half of her eyes showing the whites of her eyes, she suddenly pounced in her direction. Bang! A white light flew out of Arbor's palm and suddenly exploded at the feet of Sister 18. An earth-shattering explosion shook the entire valley. Ha 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 ha. The little girl's crisp and wild laughter suddenly rang out. "Fools! Is my core-ravaging thunder tasty? You want to catch me? You might as well die with me. Ha 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 ha. If this crown princess can't live, then all of you here, don't even think about leaving here alive. All of you will be buried with me." The ruthlessness in her voice clearly floated in the air. Not only were Holy Sun Mi Yin and the others stunned, even the Ghostface Hall Master and his group were completely stunned by her move. What's going on? With this move of hers, everyone on the field was thrown into chaos. Chapter 31:15. He turned to look and saw that the 18-year-old corpse puppet had eaten a core-ravaging thunder. Half of its body was gone, and it was lying on the ground, wailing in grief. It looked so miserable that it couldn't get any more miserable. This little girl was really a ruthless character. The Ghostface Hall Master was shocked and wanted to slap himself. Master had already warned him that this little girl was definitely a ruthless person. He couldn't give her any chance to retaliate. Otherwise, when she went down to the 18th level of hell, she would definitely drag him down to the 19th level. Everyone was flabbergasted for less than a second before they subconsciously wanted to turn around and run for their lives. Idiot, big idiot. Using other people's lives to threaten me? I'll kill them right now. I'll make sure they're all dead. Let's see what you can use to threaten me. Miss Chiao threw out the 5 spirit talismans. Everyone only saw the 5 spirit talismans floating in the air above their heads. They only had enough time to raise all their defenses. The 5 spirit talisman burst out with a bang. The entire valley was trembling, wailing, and howling in pain. Rumbling sounds began to come from afar. Meanwhile, amidst this chaos, Emolian brought Little Seven and Chestnut to swiftly attack those dozen or so spirit stone cannons. He directly smacked down with his palm, smashing the spirit stone cannons into a pile of fragments. Little Seven and Chestnut were even crazier. One swung her dragon tail and slapped the dozens of black-clothed people down the mountain wall. The other swung her 8 tails and smashed 3 to 4 spirit stone cannons, causing them to fall apart under her tail. At first, they didn't think that the little girl would dare to kill her own people. Everyone was still in shock. They couldn't believe that the little girl had gone berserk. But following that, something even more inconceivable happened. The dozens of threatening spirit stone cannons on the mountain wall were destroyed one by one. This time, the Ghostface Hall Master and the others were caught off guard. After thinking it through, they couldn't help but gnash their teeth in hatred towards Miss Chiao. This little girl had purposely created this chaos. She killed those team members herself. The 5 spirit talismans were all in her hands. If she wanted them to explode, they would explode. If she didn't want them to explode, would they explode? And even if they exploded, she could control the 5 spirit talismans easily. She could adjust the explosive power within a small range. A group of adults had been tricked by a child. In the end, just as the Ghostface Hall Master vaguely understood what was going on, Prince Emo appeared behind them with 2 sacred beasts, catching them off guard. Damn it! The Ghostface Hall Master was about to go crazy. This little girl was so cunning that she wanted to die. No, not only was he cunning, he was also a ruthless character. When she went berserk just now, It really scared everyone down there. Don't you see the people of the temple running around like headless flies? He was definitely scared out of his wits by the little girl. After Arbor executed this move, he swiftly darted to the back of the crowd and ran towards Duanyu. At this time, Duanyu also swiftly rushed over to her and lifted her petite body up with one hand. Mr. Jojo shook his little arms and legs and glared at him unhappily. Duanyu hastily reached out to catch her and said anxiously, "It's too late. Summon the snow leopard. Let's leave quickly." Arbor nodded and called out, "Little Snow." Chapter 31:16. The snow leopard suddenly jumped out of the peach blossom and intimately rubbed its large head against Arbor's body. At this time, Qi Xianxian and the others had already summoned their spirit beasts after receiving Duanyu's notice, and were scurrying toward the narrow passage. Boulders were tumbling down from the mountain walls on both sides, so they couldn't care about not being able to ride spirit beasts anymore. This situation couldn't get any worse, so what else could they do other than ride spirit beasts? The entire valley was shaking, and the mountain walls on both sides looked like they were about to collapse completely. It was clear that it would be better to quickly ride spirit beasts and flee for their lives. Duanyu tossed Sir Jojo onto the snow leopard, and Duanyu followed suit. He supported Sir Jojo with one hand and set up a defensive boundary on the two of them with the other. Without needing the two of them to say anything, that snow leopard had already spread its 4 hooves and shot out with a whoosh. It scuttled in front of several spirit beasts at lightning speed and dashed toward the narrow passage. At the same time, the flustered and exasperated Ghostface Hall Master had already scuttled to the last undamaged spirit stone cannon with a whoosh and retreated while protecting the 2 cannoneers. Emolien's palm wind had already swept over, and a terrifying force mixed with surging flames instantly swept toward the Ghostface Hall Master. With a sizzle, it burned his outer robes to nothing. "Move aside!" A shout abruptly came from behind the Ghostface Hall Master. An elderly man with white hair and a ruddy complexion abruptly appeared behind the Ghostface Hall Master. His long beard danced in front of his chest, and his gaze was so sharp that it seemed like he could nail Emolien to death from a distance. Emolien smiled coldly at him, and her aura instantly soared. Layers of ink-colored lotus flowers spread out under her feet, forming a black ocean. "How about leaving all of them here for us?" As soon as she finished speaking, the entire field of ink-colored lotus flowers rose up, exploding into black shadows in the air. The air in this area was cut apart, and the entire space formed an inverted wind gap. A hole was torn open, and a gloomy cold wind came out from the void. The old man's shadow trembled slightly, and his entire body floated up in an inconceivable way. His white hair and eyebrows danced on his face, and his pupils had already shrunk to the size of a needle tip. Void! Void power! Boom! The entire valley instantly cracked open. It was as if a powerful earthquake had occurred, and the entire valley was destroyed by the power of the void, leaving nothing behind. The mountain walls on both sides of the river poured down in torrents, as if they were being destroyed by a mountain torrent. Looking from afar, they could only see smoke rising from the valley. Gravel was flying everywhere, and dust was rolling all the way towards them. Jojo's run. Jojo hurriedly turned his head to look, but his eyes widened in shock. The entire valley was destroyed. Jojo's lotus. "Don't worry, Jojo. You forgot that Run can tear open the void. He will definitely be fine. He will come over." Arbor thought about it, and his heart was slightly relieved. However, he heard the sound of a cannon behind him. Boom! Arbor looked back again, and saw that the student of Lanyang Academy, who was driven away by Holy Sun Mi Yin, was instantly blown to pieces by the spirit stone cannon. Before he died, he looked at Jojo's expression, and he was still very shocked. He probably did not expect that he would not even be able to reach the secret realm. Chapter 31:17. Xiaomu looked at him without any ripples in her heart. This was also the path that this person had chosen. If he had left peacefully when Mayan chased him away, and stopped following them secretly, he would have been able to keep his life. Now there was no turning back. Therefore, every choice that a person made at every stage of their life would affect their future. As for life and death, It was really hard to say. They're coming, Arbor said in a low voice. He waved his hand and hundreds of explosion talismans flew out. He threw them over. Bam bam bam. Bam bam bam. The entire valley was singing joyfully, making one last struggle before destruction. After the destruction of the Red River Canyon this time, it would probably no longer exist. How could they still care about whether or not they were injured by the rocks? Their eyes were red from running. They punched the rocks flying at them. When they saw vines obstructing their escape, they immediately used their swords and sabers to slash at them. Sometimes they even slashed at their companions by mistake. At this time, no one made a sound. In the midst of the chaos, Arbor saw that the hall master with the silver ghost mask was sitting on a yellow-spotted mountain tiger, chasing them at high speed. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal suddenly emerged from Paradise Planet. With a point of his finger, dozens of vines nearby rolled up like waves, wrapping around the ghost mask hall master and the others. A few spirit beasts were hooked by the wavy vines and fell heavily to the ground. Layer after layer of vines chased after them like waves, forcing the ghost mask hall master and the others to stop with gloomy expressions. Ghost Mask waved his hand. Immediately, someone carried the last spirit stone cannon forward and fired at the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal. Rotten Peach Blossom, come back quickly, Arbor shouted anxiously. With a pull of his finger, he had Chochio throw out a vine to hook onto the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's sleeve and pull him back. There was a loud boom. The snow leopard leaped up onto a rock at the side. Its two claws slipped on the rock. It used all its strength to jump onto another rock and land quickly on the ground. Scoundrel! A shout came from behind the ghost face hall master. The bearded old man's face, which was swollen like a bun, appeared in front of everyone. Duan Yu's expression darkened, and he instantly jumped off the snow leopard's back. He waved his hand and said, "Take Jojo away." The snow leopard hurriedly spread its 4 hooves and rushed forward. Mr. Jojo couldn't help but feel anxious and angry. He hit the snow leopard's head hard and said, "Who's your master? Go back. You old bastard." He even created a clone to chase after them. "Then you can die here together with that wisp of soul of yours." A somewhat glaring silvery white flame ignited in Duan Yu's hand, and it instantly transformed into a white phoenix. It let out a shrill cry in the air as it flapped its gigantic wings and charged towards the elderly man. At this moment, the old man was completely dumbfounded. He really didn't expect that as a peak immortal venerable, he could be considered as the old ancestor of the immortals in this world. Within 2 hours, he actually encountered 2 extraordinarily talented juniors in a row. One of them was able to tear open the void with a sacred fire and instantly tear apart his soul. Not only that, but that scoundrel also viciously beat him up. Look at how badly the old man was beaten up. Chapter 31:18. That wisp of divine soul was crippled in that punk's hands, causing his grandfather to suffer greatly. Yet this fellow in front of him actually ignited the Devil Emperor's fire that had disappeared for 1,000 years and made the demonic fire take form in a matter of minutes. How could he, an old grandfather who had cultivated for several hundred years, endure this? Was the way of the world so demoralizing now? Was he unable to keep up with the times? Or were these 2 youths not people of this era in the first place? The old grandfather gloomily scratched his ears and cheeks. He couldn't resist howling at the sky 3 times. Like a rainbow piercing the moon, the white phoenix violently pierced through that old man's body at lightning speed. This caused the old man to open his mouth in pain, and his entire face became distorted. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal quickly drew out his natal divine sword with a flick of his finger and stabbed him in the chest. The sword pierced through his chest again. This time, even if that old man's clone was a peak venerable immortal, it was completely finished. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked back meaningfully at Duan Yu. "Punk, you're at the Transcendent God Realm, right?" This punk pretended to be a Transcendent God Realm rabbit all day long to swindle people. Duan Yu's complexion was slightly pale, and he tossed him behind him. "Go to Jojo's." Then his figure flashed, evading a spirit stone cannon shot from the flustered and exasperated Ghostface Hall Master. Boom! Boom boom! Everyone was scared witless and hastily ran forward, probably using all the strength their parents gave them to drink milk. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked back. Hurry over. Still concerned about the little ancestor, the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal quickly turned around and chased in the direction of Arbor. He hadn't run far when he saw the little snow leopard running towards him. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal quickly dashed forward and jumped onto the snow leopard, picking up that little ancestor. Why did you come back? Hurry and turn back. That spirit stone cannon was no joke. Even he wasn't willing to clash head-on with that thing. Where's Duanyu? What could happen to Duanyu? Don't worry, he'll catch up in a moment. Little Snow, hurry and turn back, the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal ordered. The little snow leopard hurriedly turned around and sprinted away. Then it turned around and ran away again. Arbor was so angry that his little face turned black. He punched the snow leopard's head again. Why can't you tell who's your master? Don't think that just because Lord Xiao Xiao has become smaller, you can disobey Lord Xiao Xiao's orders. If you want to rebel, you have to consider whether or not you can take a beating from Lord Xiao Xiao. Little Snow felt a little bitter. It wanted to listen to its master, but if the venerable immortal gave it a cold stare, it couldn't take it. Arbor anxiously urged the snow leopard. Hurry back and take a look. Duanyu, before she could finish speaking, she saw Duanyu's figure swiftly floating to her side. When he saw that they were still standing in place, he couldn't help but ask anxiously, why aren't you leaving yet? Let's go. At this point, the valley had already cracked open. How could the earth withstand the pressure of so many spirit beasts? The valley's ground cracked open inch by inch, revealing the pitch-black crevice below. Everyone felt as if their hearts were about to jump out of their mouths. Almost all of them exhausted all of their abilities and ran for their lives there. Most importantly, it wasn't that the Ghostface Hall Master was frightening them, but that if they fell into this crevice, they really would lose their lives at any moment. Run, everyone prayed inwardly. Chapter 31:19. I hope I'm fine. I hope I can successfully pass through this Red River Canyon this time. I won't return to this Red River Canyon in this lifetime. Oh no, in the next lifetime. I won't come even if you invite me in the future. Everyone sensed that the entire canyon was sinking, and all the living beings in this area were frantically fleeing outwards. Sir Jojo saw Duanyu turn around and throw a palm strike. Several dozen boulders were sucked into his palm and landed behind him with a loud boom. Bang! After a cannon blast, a deep pit appeared in the ground, and then everything tilted down. The fissure in the ground widened. After the ghastly Hall Master and his men finished bombarding the boulders Duanyu used to block the path, the fissure was already several dozen meters wide. It was a bit strenuous to jump over with just manpower. The ghastly Hall Master looked up and saw that everyone had fled without a trace behind the fissure. The cry of a phoenix came from afar. Immediately after, the ghastly Hall Master narrowed his eyes and looked up at the sky. Damn it, they were already out of the no-fly zone. They truly failed at the last hurdle. Not only did they fail to capture the little stoic alive, but they didn't even catch a strand of her hair. What was even more hateful was that those people actually fled without a single survivor. Hall Master Gong. The ghastly Hall Master raised his hand and stopped the person from speaking. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Prepare to withdraw the troops and return." There was no meaning in chasing after them now. Their side had lost Elder Tan's clone and a wisp of his soul. Even if he led more people over, they might not necessarily be able to catch up to the little stoic's fire phoenix. They failed at the last hurdle. They failed at the last hurdle. The ghastly Hall Master resentfully clenched the Jade Messenger talisman in his hand and then crushed it into powder. "Return to receive your punishment," the ghastly Hall Master shouted. After such a thing happened today, it was simply unjustifiable to shirk responsibility. It was his incompetence. He brought so many people, but in the end, let alone capturing the little stoic, they couldn't even subdue those cats and dogs. He simply wasted a lot of manpower and resources, and his losses weren't small either. The ghastly Hall Master's eyes darkened, and he turned around to call for the drooping people to quickly leave. What awaited them was an extremely harsh punishment. Even the ghastly hallmaster's heart couldn't help but tremble at the thought of that terrifying punishment. On the other side, when Xiao Mu and the others heard the Holy Sun say that they had already exited the no-fly zone, they quickly summoned the little fire phoenix and had it carry them towards the other end of the valley. Holy Sun Mi Yin also sat on the back of the fire phoenix and pointed the way for everyone. When we left just now, there were cracks everywhere. They shouldn't be able to catch up to us for a while. The main altar of our Sun Moon Temple is right in front of us. Let's rest after we enter the temple. Don't stay any longer. How long will it take? With the Fire Phoenix's speed, it should take 4 hours. No, it's too long. Arbor quickly shook his head. Is there any place nearby where we can heal people? Holy Sun Mayan was involuntarily taken aback. She didn't think that the little stoic was such a compassionate person who would deliberately stop and treat someone else's injuries. Speak quickly, the little stoic shouted, her tone somewhat anxious and uneasy. In the outskirts below, there's a row of hunters' houses on the hillside. They're usually empty, but when the hunters go hunting in the mountains at the beginning of spring, they'll. Chapter 31:20. The little stoic didn't continue listening and instructed Phoenix to quickly descend in that direction. Fire Phoenix naturally only listened to the little stoic. Even if many people above were muttering that the little stoic should first send them to a safe place, the little stoic naturally turned a deaf ear to them and directly had Fire Phoenix land on the hillside in the suburbs that the Holy Sun mentioned. The group of people dismounted from Phoenix speechlessly. Zhongli Jiwei then shouted in exasperation. Why won't you listen to other people's advice? I already said that the current situation is still very dangerous. Can't we directly return to the temple to treat him? Zhongli Jiwei fired off a torrent of words. You're always so egotistical no matter what you do. How can you? Shut up. The little stoic's viciousness exploded, and she turned to glare at the garrulous Zhongli Jiwei. She shouted angrily. If you give me another word of nonsense, I'll slaughter you. Zhongli Jiwei immediately fell silent, and she looked at the killing intent on the stoic's face in shock. She naturally believed that the little stoic wasn't joking. When Zhongli Jiwei said the word kill to her with a murderous look on her face, the way she gritted her teeth, in Zhongli Jiwei's eyes, was a bit sinister and terrifying. All right, everyone stop quarreling. A pretty woman couldn't resist persuading. Jiwei, Miss Qiao is anxious to save people, so let's not obstruct her for now. That's right, Long Min is right. We escaped from the tiger's den with great difficulty, so let's not fight among ourselves now, all right? Qin Jiu also couldn't resist saying. Besides, my eldest brother also suffered very serious injuries. Miss Jojo, you should also take a look at my eldest brother later. Arbor turned to look and saw Qin Xian leaning on Qin Jiu. Sure enough, his face was a bit pale, and his eyes were slightly closed, his eyelashes trembling. When did he get injured? Arbor was a bit puzzled, but he didn't have time to examine Qin Xian's injuries right now. Instead, he grabbed Duan Yu's hand and forcefully pushed him into a wooden shed. Get in here. The little stoic reprimanded in an unpleasant tone. After Duan Yu was taken aback, he blinked at her and questioned. Jojo, what are you doing? Stop pretending. Arbor glared at him angrily. Come in. Duan Yu was startled by her overflowing fury. Seeing that the little emperor was angry, he quickly and obediently walked into that wooden shed and sat down, obediently waiting to be shaved. The wooden basin built by the hunters was very sturdy and spacious. Seeing this, Qin Jiu hurriedly helped his eldest brother into the basin. His second brother was nowhere to be found. If something were to happen to his eldest brother, he wouldn't be able to face his father when he returned. Hence, even if the little stoic mocked or scolded him later, he still requested the little stoic to examine his eldest brother's injuries. At this time, the little stoic was already holding a needle bag and ointment as she walked toward him with a face brimming with fury. Ming Yasi followed her in and said sourly, You made everyone stop here because of him? What was so good about this kid? Why did the little stoic take a liking to him? He examined himself from head to toe. From his looks to his family background to power or wealth, there wasn't a single aspect that was inferior to this guy's. Why was he so disliked by the little stoic? The Stoic's face was taut. So how could she be happy to say a single word? Hence, our dear Ming Yasi was naturally ignored by everyone. Chapter 31:21. It was so infuriating just thinking about it. Moreover, he was her fiancé who had a marriage contract with her. Why wasn't he liked by others? Behave yourself. Arbor roared at Duan Yu. The latter instantly felt like time had turned back. In his hazy state, he actually caught a glimpse of that little stoic on Hulun Mountain punching and kicking him. The current little stoic was even 2 years younger than when they first met back then, but her aura was still the same. I am very well behaved. Our dear Duan Yu instantly cowered. Arbor couldn't be bothered with him, and directly stepped on a pedal to grab his collar. His actions were truly as crude as one could imagine. On the side, Ming Yasi's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. What are you doing? Is there anyone who grabs a man's collar like you? Can't you get any better? You big liar. Don't talk to me. Arbor simply ignored them and forcefully tore open Duan Yu's collar, revealing a patch of scarlet collarbone. There was a large red gash on that collarbone, and the inner garment inside had long been dyed red with blood. You scoundrel, you! The little stoic's eyes were red from anger. I'm fine again, Duan Yu weakly said, but she immediately glared at him. How could he die from such a small injury? Moreover, they had been in a hurry to escape earlier, so how could they have had time to treat his injury? Big liar! The little stoic stepped on the pedal and forcefully pounded his head. He was bleeding so much, yet he said he was fine. Would he die if he didn't flaunt his abilities? I was just grazed by that spirit stone cannon's blast. I'm really fine. Duan Yu repeatedly consoled the little fellow. Just apply some medicine on me, and I'll be fine tomorrow. SSSS. Ouch, 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 be gentler. Ming Yasi watched from the side with a sour taste in his heart. They were both applying medicine, but the difference in treatment immediately manifested itself. How could this small injury on this guy's collarbone be as deep as the injury on his arm? Look at how anxious the little stoic was over a mere graze. It obviously differed from person to person. I'm telling you, if you don't know how to take care of yourself in the future, don't stay with me. I don't want to keep thinking that you're going to die someday. She hated being with weak little animals the most. Who knew when they would die and cause her to be sad? Duan Yu nodded obediently like a chick pecking at rice. You people only know how to make trouble for me. One moment this person is injured, the next moment that person is injured. It's like I'm carrying a bunch of flower buds. I've been worried sick about you all this time. Duan Yu, Qin Jiu, Duan Muqing, Situ Yi, and the others who had just stepped through the door were speechless. Why do I want to laugh so much? Everyone looked at Duan Yu sympathetically. Our dear Duan Yu's eyes darted around before he hastily smiled fawningly at the little stoic. Jojo, let me tell you some good news. Who wants to hear your good news? Arbor tightened his grip. Duan Yu immediately wailed pitifully. Ouch, ouch, Jojo. My injury isn't that serious, but I'll treat you to death soon. The little stoic's small face was cold, and she immediately lightened her grip. Ming Yasi had been carefully observing from the side the entire time. He couldn't help but secretly despise Duan Yu in his heart, but he was also inwardly jealous. Was he still a man? It was just a small graze, yet he was wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf in front of Jojo. No wonder Jojo called him a flower bud when he was so delicate. Chapter 31:22. But the little girl seemed to fall for this trick, seeing how she immediately lightened her hands and feet when Duan Yu yelled. This was truly a huge difference in treatment. Ming Yasi thought with a sour taste in his mouth. How about he let Jojo treat him the next time he got injured? He could also try to imitate Duan Yu and howl like a ghost. Ming Yasi didn't know that the little girl was merciful toward him, because she respected him for being a tough guy during the treatment last time. If he really imitated Duan Yu and howled in grief, it might infuriate the little girl even more, and make her attacks even heavier. Ming Yasi inwardly labeled Duan Yu as a flirtatious bitch, and disdained this guy a million times. He immediately stepped forward and said, You're more or less healed, right? Let me take a look. My arm still hurts. The two young masters are idle. Go look for them. Duan Yu irritably shouted at him. Ming Yassi's face instantly darkened. I just paid. Duan Yu. Cough cough, don't quarrel, don't quarrel. Liang Qingqing walked up and said, I see that everyone is tired, so let's go cook something first. Then we'll see if we can stay here for the night. Jojo's treatment speed is very fast. You guys just need to line up here quietly. Ming Yassi angrily sat down on the doorstep. Duan Yu gave him a strange look. This guy had really steeled his heart, and insisted on having Qiao Qiao treat his injury. After Arbor cleaned his wound, applied medicine, and bandaged it with a clean cotton cloth. Only then did he toss away his blood-stained collar and fiercely shout at him, Go change your clothes. Our dear Duan Yu obediently got to work after receiving the imperial edict. The little stoic pattered to Qin Jiao. Carry him to the table. Qin Jiao was still thinking about how to beg the stoic face, so he couldn't help but be overjoyed when she took the initiative to come over. He quickly nodded and carried his eldest brother to the table. Big brother was shot in the back during the chaos just now, and then he fainted. Xiao Mu expressionlessly flipped Qin Xian over. When she saw that there was indeed a short and small fine iron arrowhead stuck in his back, she involuntarily creased her brows. Why didn't you say so earlier? Qin Jiao's heart instantly dropped with a thump, and he said miserably, Is it hopeless, Miss Qiao? Arbor was speechless as he looked at this guy. With Qin Xian's cultivation, it was unreasonable for him to die from a single arrow. There's some poison on the arrow, causing him to fall asleep. With his cultivation, even if I didn't save him, he would have pulled out the arrow himself and forced the poison out. After 10 days or half a month, he would have recovered. After Arbor finished explaining, she felt that her saliva was almost gone. She had nothing better to do. Why did she have to explain to this brat? However, when she saw the child's red eyes and the silly look on his face, as if he was about to lose his big brother, she couldn't help but nag at him. Qin Jiao immediately beamed with joy and nodded repeatedly. Good. Miss Qiao, then thank you very much. I'll have to trouble you to treat my big brother. Let him recover as soon as possible. Xiao Mu nodded and inserted 2 needles into Qin Xian's wound. Just as she was about to clean his wound, she saw Ming Yassi jump in front of her and say with a darkened face, My arm hurts. Treat me first. Why did he have to be at the back of the queue? He was the one who paid the money. I paid for it. He also has to pay, Arbor said irritably. Chapter 31-23. When Qin Jiao heard this, he immediately nodded repeatedly and shoved the tactless Ming Yassi to the side. Go away. My eldest brother's injuries are serious, so let Miss Jojo treat him first. We will pay double. Duan Muqing was watching from the side. When he heard Qin Jiao, this fool, say this, he involuntarily curled his lips and looked at him sympathetically. You know how to cry. At this time, Duan Yu had already changed into a clean, plain-colored robe and cheerfully ran inside. Jojo, I feel like I'm fine now. Arbor cast him a glance, but couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. However, his subordinates had already helped Qin Xian remove the arrowhead, cleaned the wound, and applied ointment. They completed everything extremely quickly. All right, help your eldest brother away. Jojo, I just wanted to tell you a piece of good news that I haven't told you yet. Arbor was washing his hands. When he heard this, he turned to look at Duan Yassi and thought, Look at your sloppy appearance. I know you must be teasing me with a joke. Sir Jojo harumphed. Speak. Look at how many things happened on our way from the imperial city to the temple. Duan Yu said, I feel that everything will go smoothly after we enter the mystic realm. Hey, I also think so. Qin Jiao couldn't resist interrupting. Although I always felt that Duan Yu was a bit unreliable, I feel that what he said today is especially reliable. The little stoic looked at them expressionlessly. I feel that you guys are all unreliable. Think about it. Our journey was filled with difficulties and dangers, right? This is simply too torturous. We haven't even entered the mystic realm, but we've already lost half of our people. Qin Jiao couldn't help but sigh when he thought of this. I feel that our journey into the mystic realm this time will definitely go extremely smoothly. Ming Yassi snorted. I feel that you will soon be slapped in the face by yourself. Duan Muqing twitched his mouth and didn't comment. He felt that it was enough to just listen. Arbor was currently bandaging the wound on Ming Yassi's arm. This time, he didn't make things difficult for him, and moved very quickly. It only took a few minutes for him to settle it. In the end, Mingya sat on the stool and looked down at his own arm in a daze. It's wrapped. Were there any attentive people? How could he be cured in such a short time? Earlier, when she was treating Duan Yu, that idiot, she took a full 5 minutes. So how did she finish it in just 1 or 2 minutes? Could it be that he was just messing with her to fool her? Scram! Xiao Mu grumpily shouted at him. Si Qiao Qiao's bandaging technique was skillful and fast, yet he still felt that it was not satisfying enough. She couldn't be bothered to continue talking to this guy. Duan Yu's lips turned up as he walked up and waved his hand. Hurry and scram. It's almost time for dinner. It's not appropriate for an outsider like you to stay here. Qi Xianxian immediately nodded her head. The more people there were, the more dishes there would be. There weren't many dishes to begin with, so they couldn't add another person. I'll pay. Join us. No way. Duan Yu immediately refused and pulled back Sir Jojo, who was about to leave. What are you going out for? Sir Jojo was a bit angry. How did this guy develop a habit of dragging Sir Jojo around for no reason? No, he had to quickly return to his original state. Otherwise, it would feel like Sir Jojo's status had plummeted. I'm going to see if my Lien is here yet. Chapter 31-24. Io, my arm is still hurting. Ming Yassi suddenly called out, causing Sir Jojo, who was about to step out of the door, to turn his head. How is that possible? She had examined his injury earlier. When she applied the medicine earlier, it was actually more or less healed. Later on, his arm was injured by the rain of arrows. But after she applied the medicine, it shouldn't hurt anymore. If it was quick, it would be healed in 2 hours. If it was late, it would completely recover by tomorrow. How could it still hurt? Ignore him, Jojo. He's a big liar. Duan Yu immediately exposed Ming Yassi's lie. This punk was truly despicable and shameless. He actually dared to use such a despicable trick to deceive his Jojo. Arbor thought about it, and agreed with Duan Yu's statement. Big liar. She rolled her eyes at him. Just as she took a step, she saw a slender, ink-colored figure swiftly float in from outside the door, bringing with it a cool breeze. The little fellow's eyes instantly brightened when she sensed this familiar presence, and she quickly ran towards the door with her short legs. She threw herself onto his slender legs at once, and then there was a hint of grief. Jojo. Mo Lien hastily picked her up and carried her into his arms. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that her face was flushed red, and that she wasn't injured at all. Sir Jojo was instantly exasperated. Why did they all like to lift and lift? Lifting the little Jojo Emperor? The little fellow glared at him with round eyes. As soon as Mo Lien met her eyes, he instantly felt a bit guilty. Thinking back, he didn't do anything wrong. He quickly scooted forward and whispered to his wifey. What mistake did I make? You and Duan Yu, these two big liars, teamed up to deceive me. No. Mo Lien quickly denied it. What a joke, would he admit it? Duan Yu naturally also denied it later. No such thing. Don't think Jojo is an idiot. Arbor glared at the man in front of him in displeasure. You two clearly discussed this. One will help me escape, and the other will completely destroy the valley, so that the pursuers won't be able to catch up. Mo Lien peered at Duan Yu with an odd gaze, his gaze clearly stating, You punk confessed? Duan Yu was helpless. I didn't say anything. Jojo guessed it. Jojo's so smart. Don't change the topic. Lady Jojo smacked him on the head. Her current height was high enough to hit someone's head. He couldn't even do it in the past. Mo Lien looked at her, both amused and exasperated. Strange. Why did he have the illusion that Jojo liked to hit him on the head out of habit? His wife wasn't that violent? Ciao. There won't be any problems if we work together on this matter. Didn't we successfully escaping? Duan Yu's injured. Mo Lien was startled, and he sized up our dear Duan Yu, whose complexion was still pretty good. He just knew that this guy would be fine. He quickly stretched out his left paw and handed it to Jojo. He cried out pitifully, I'm injured too. It hurts so much. Quick, wifey, let hubby take a look. Ming Yas almost knocked his head against the door frame. He thought that Duan Yu was already shameless enough. He pretended to be delicate in front of Qiao Qiao, insisting that Qiao Qiao treat him gently. He didn't have the slightest bit of manliness. He didn't expect Mo Lian to be even more shameless. Chapter 31-25. Look at his left paw. Wasn't it just a little bruise? He was pretending to be something big. Arbor quickly pulled his paw down and directed him to carry him onto the table. Then, he stood there with Arbor's paw raised and expressionlessly applied the bruise-dispersing ointment. How did you get hurt? Duan Yu couldn't resist twitching his mouth as he inwardly cursed shameless. It was obvious that this guy's injury was caused by beating someone up with all his might. How could this freaking be considered an injury? Sure enough, only shameless could trick Jojo. He was still too pure. He was beaten up. Mo Lian shot a look at Duan Muqing and the others, who were staring blankly at the side. The group of people walked out with twitching mouths. It wasn't long before they shouted from outside, "Jojo! Time to eat!" How could Sir Jojo not know that this group of people was instigated by Lord Mo to come help? She couldn't help glaring at him in amusement and exasperation. Put Sir Jojo on the ground. Yes, my lord. Prince Mo was all smiles as he lifted his arms to place her on the ground. Then, he followed her short legs pattering as they walked out of the wooden shed. The heavy rain had already stopped, and the night sky above the hillside was sparkling with stars. The air after the rain seemed especially fresh. Duan Muqing and the others used spiritual energy to dry the wet lawn around them and spread a blanket over it. The group of survivors drank and ate meat on the lawn while looking up at the starry sky, which relieved some of the gloominess in their chests. Holy Sun Miyin slowly walked to their side and silently found a place to sit down. After a long silence, he asked, "The people who attacked the Heavenly Fate Temple earlier, are they the ones who are in contact with the Holy Nun?" Emolian nodded. "Do you want to know about the Heavenly Fate Temple?" Holy Sun Miyin was silent for a while before nodding. "I want to know." He now clearly understood one thing. Perhaps the people of the temple really were involved with the evil cult of the Heavenly Fate Temple. Perhaps this trip to the mystic realm isn't very safe. "It's not too late for you to back out now," Holy Sun Miyin said. "Do we look like people who are afraid of trouble?" Duan Yu raised his cup at the Holy Sun. "Moreover, you've already signed the life and death contract. Aren't you a bit too cowardly to say you're scared now?" "All right, Holy Sun." The slightly tipsy little fatty raised his hand and placed it on the Holy Sun's shoulder, pounding him hard twice. "I know you're not a bad person. Let me tell you, our team is the Lucky Star team. Wherever we go, we'll be able to turn danger into safety. In the end, we'll earn a lot of money." Qi Xianxian rushed forward and covered little fatty's mouth. She smiled awkwardly at the saint and said, "He's drunk, ahahaha." How embarrassing would it be to say that he wanted to empty the mystic realm in front of the owner of the mystic realm? The little stoic expressionlessly held a cup of tea and sat upright next to everyone. "How many people are drunk? Do you need to sober up?" "Probably more than half of them are drunk," the saint said with a smile. "If there's any hangover soup, give them a few sips." The little stoic expressionlessly said, "There's no need for hangover soup." She raised her hand, and an object that was half a body was suddenly released from the storage talisman. It immediately charged at the drunken little fatty like a rabid dog, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Arbor expressionlessly pulled on a very thick chain, firmly holding that fellow in his hand. Meanwhile, little fatty peed his pants in fright and rolled to the ground. Upon closer inspection, it was actually Sister 18 who had battled with Jojo. Chapter 31-26. Everyone was speechless. They were so scared that their souls almost flew out of their bodies. Qi Xianxian opened her mouth wide in shock and only spoke after a while. "Chow, chow, chow. How did you catch it?" Little fatty immediately sobered up. When Sister 18 bared her fangs and brandished her claws in front of everyone, more than half of the people present were instantly shocked awake. The little girl held Sister 18's hand like a little queen patrolling the grounds. She said expressionlessly, Go to sleep after you've sobered up. Everyone was speechless. Was there such a weird way to sober up? The little fatty subconsciously wiped the sweat off his forehead and turned to look at the speechless Qi Xianxian. When did Xiao Qiao put the 18th sister into the device talisman? Qi Xianxian rolled her eyes at the sky. She was also shocked just now. If she had been mentally prepared, she wouldn't have been so shocked. She turned to look at the little girl. She was already holding Sister 18's hand and walking back. The 18th sister was still roaring. The little girl went up to it and kicked its body. Everyone was speechless. Prince Emo didn't know what to say. He smiled at little fatty and said, "Don't be scared. Jojo is just joking with you." Ha ha ha. Little fatty and the others twitched their mouths. Crown Prince, do you think this joke is funny? Sir Jojo led Sister 18 back to the wooden shed and stuffed the chain into Emolien's hands. Throw it to the small base in Beiwang Valley. Let Mr. Su study it. Looking at its half-pulled body, it could still move. It was clear that this zombie's vitality was extremely strong. If they could find the ingredients that caused the mutation, Sir Jojo might be able to make an antidote. Then, everyone wouldn't have to be afraid of zombies anymore. As for the holy fruit that the sapling bore, although it was effective against zombie poison, it was rare and precious. Naturally, it couldn't be taken out casually. Ever since she took one the last time, the sapling had been listless for a long time. There was finally a sign that the second holy fruit was about to bear. But Jojo wouldn't pick it so easily. Prince Emo put Sister 18 into the storage talisman and nodded. "I'll send someone to deliver it tomorrow. This 18th sister's combat power is quite strong. Pay attention to your defense, and don't let her attack anyone." Looking at this damn thing, its body had become half and half pulled, but it was still able to crawl around so quickly. It could be seen that the drug that caused this transformation was really amazing for Tian Yin. To be able to concoct this kind of corpse poison, it meant that he should have a team of medical pharmacists who specialized in research, operating behind the scenes. But to be able to research such a powerful corpse poison, wouldn't it be better to do something that would benefit humanity? Why did he have to do something against humanity? As Arbor thought of this, he shook his head, took Emolien's hand and said, "You lay down a defensive barrier for me. I will go to the Paradise Star to draw some talismans and make some spiritual recovery pills." In the previous battle, the 5 spirit talismans and spiritual recovery pills were almost used up. She had to replenish them in time. She didn't want to regret not having enough talismans when it was time to use them. She preferred to take precautions in everything she did. Emolien naturally nodded and set up a defensive boundary outside the wooden shed as instructed, separating everyone from the group. Fortunately, it was already late at night. The others had been fighting all night and were already mentally exhausted. Chapter 31:27. They fell asleep the moment their heads hit the ground, and no one paid attention to Qiao Mu and Emolien again. Arbor entered Paradise Planet and drew talismans for a long time. She also made several cauldrons of spirit recovery pills. It should be about time, so she took a short nap. When she came out, the sky outside was just beginning to brighten. Prince Emo, who was meditating on a wooden plank, felt her breathing move and slowly opened his eyes. He saw a chubby little pendant hanging from her body and couldn't help but feel a little speechless. That pendant was the little monk who was hugging Lord Jojo tightly. The little guy's eyelashes fluttered in his sleep, and his little mouth was drooping, as if he was complaining about something in his sleep. "Why did you bring him out?" Emolien hurriedly reached out to take the little monk from her. The little guy furrowed his little brows in his sleep and smacked his little mouth, as if he was very dissatisfied with the hard one. He had switched from a soft cushion to a soft one. Lord Jojo looked at the little guy helplessly. Ever since she entered Paradise Planet, the little monk was like a hot potato that she couldn't get rid of. He followed her everywhere and nagged nonstop. Arbor really couldn't do anything about him, so she just brought him out. At this moment, the little monk was sleeping very soundly. Arbor went up to touch his round head, and an idea flashed through her mind. Why don't we let the little monk renounce asceticism? You see, when he was a monk he nagged all day long. Maybe he won't nag so much after he renounces asceticism. Emolienne wanted to roll her eyes, but she held it in. It's not that he likes to nag as a little monk. It's just that he likes to nag, so there's no point in being a monk, whether he's a beggar or an emperor. I'm afraid he won't be able to change his habit of nagging. Arbor was speechless. All right, she had to admit that Emolienne's words made some sense. Since he was only 3 years old, would the little monk become more and more fond of nagging as he grew? When Arbor thought that he might be 60 years old and still have to listen to this old monk's nagging, he felt a little uncomfortable. When dawn broke, Emolienne brought the cooked porridge into the wooden shed. She saw the little monk, who was sleeping soundly on the wooden bed wrapped in a small cotton-padded jacket, suddenly fall off the wooden bed with a thud. The corners of Emolienne's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Just as she was about to step forward and pick him up, she saw the little monk roll over and sit up. A pair of dazed eyes focused on him. Then she pursed her lips and howled. Benefactress ran away again. When Arbor came in with a set of clean clothes, he happened to hear the little monk's words. He couldn't help but roll his eyes. What are you yelling for? It's here. The little monk got up from the ground and ran to Arbor's side with his short legs. He hugged her body and cried out pitifully, Benefactress, why are you shorter again? Emolienne, you're the one who's shorter. Hearing Jojo's loud roar early in the morning, the little fatty, who was washing outside, almost swallowed a mouthful of mouthwash. Hey bro, last night, was my eyes playing tricks on me? I think I saw Jiang Qijing, who was half naked, making threatening gestures in front of me. The little fatty wiped his face and couldn't help approaching Lu Yu and winking at him. Lu Yu looked at him expressionlessly. You didn't see wrong. I knew it was my eyes playing tricks on me. The little fatty laughed. Chapter 31:28. He slapped his thigh in passing, but his palm abruptly stiffened when he came to his senses. It wasn't. It was a brother. Could it be that he really saw Sister 18 with a half-collapsed body and a face full of rotting flesh last night? At this time, Holy Sun Mi Yin was already neatly dressed and standing at the front of the group, waiting for everyone to get ready and return to the group. Thank you for your grace. 7,930,000 spirit coins. I'll round it off for you, 7,990. Holy Sun Mi Yan's cheeks twitched when he heard the voice. He then looked down and saw the little stoic looking up at him while holding up a bill in her hand. Holy Sun Mi Yin expressionlessly bent down to take her bill. With a whoosh, that bill fluttered all the way to the ground. Holy Sun Mi Yin. Everyone. Holy Sun Mi Yin coughed lightly and was about to say something when Duan Yu's voice was heard. Hey, add that 2 million as well. Don't forget to give it to Jojo. A group of vampire bats. Holy Sun Mi Yin gritted his small steel teeth and revealed a resolute expression. He then took out a spiritual coin card from his inner world and handed it to Qiaomu. 10 million, keep the change. Arbor nodded and stood on his tiptoes to take the spirit coin card offered by Holy Sun Mi Yin. He originally wanted to pat the other person's shoulder and say a few words of consolation, but he realized that he could only pat the other person's leg due to his height. So he resentfully dropped the idea. Let's set off, Holy Sun Mi Yin said to everyone. The others had also finished washing up and were ready to set off. During the crisis earlier, it was the little stoic's phoenix that flew all the way here. Now that the crisis was resolved, these people who weren't very familiar with the stoic face were naturally too embarrassed to ride on her phoenix. Let's go, we can reach the temple within 4 hours. We should be able to make it in time. Holy Sun Mi Yin flipped onto the temple's mount and led everyone boldly toward the Sun Moon Temple with a wave of his hand. Those running on the ground and those flying in the sky all headed in the same direction, as fast as lightning. Arbor sat cross-legged on a long feather and lightly floated above everyone's heads. A chubby little monk was sitting obediently beside him. Everyone couldn't help but take a few more glances. They were curious as to where this monk came from. At first, Qi Xianxian saw that the feather was light and soft, and did not dare to approach it. Now that the feather had been floating for almost an hour, and still maintained a constant speed, she curiously approached it. Qi Xianxian said, Hey Jojo, can I come up and play? Arbor was sitting there listlessly, listening to the little monk's nagging. Seeing Qi Xuanxuan's insistence, he hurriedly nodded and said, "Jump." Qi Xianxian was sitting on Duanmuqing's 1,000-mile eagle 10 feet of azure one. When she heard Arbor's words, she stood up shakily and swallowed her saliva. "Don't tell me it can't bear our weight, and will fall down if I jump over it." "That's very possible." A discordant voice came from the side. The little fatty was still chuckling mischievously, unaware that he was at death's door. "Once you jump on it with your weight, Aya, why did you hit me?" The little fatty, who took a punch to the head, shrunk his neck with an aggrieved expression. "Jump, it's fine," Arbor said expressionlessly. It was a very happy thing to have someone to listen to the little monk's nagging with her. Chapter 31:29. Qi Xianxian gritted her teeth. She thought about how she would drag Jojo along and fly upwards if it collapsed. Later she tapped her feet and jumped off 10 feet of blue, flying onto Arbor's feather. The moment she steadied herself, she immediately sensed that something was amiss. Fuck, wasn't this too soft and comfortable? She felt like she was stepping on a soft cloud. Not only was the feather flying steadily, but no matter how hard she tried to jump, the feather remained motionless and didn't sway in the slightest. This shouldn't be an ordinary feather, right? This is a flying divine weapon, Arbor said expressionlessly. "Stop jumping. It won't sway even if you carry 300 elephants." Qi Xianxian immediately fell down and rolled around on the feather. She felt her entire body being enveloped by softness, so comfortable that she immediately wanted to sleep. "Wow, I didn't sleep well yesterday. I'll sleep for a bit now." How could that do? The little monk was still nagging. Was she going to have to listen to the little monk's nagging again? Sir Jojo said with a stoic expression. "Let me tell you about the origin of this heavenly horsetail feather." "Okay." Qi Xianxian rolled and crawled up from the feather, looking like a curious child. She knew Xianxian loved to listen to gossip the most. The little stoic didn't show it on her face, but she was secretly pleased with herself. See, she had a good grasp of her little companion's tempers. "Someone gave it to me." Qi Xianxian listened in high spirits, but after 2 minutes, she didn't see the little stoic continue. On the other hand, the nagging little monk also stopped talking and looked curiously at Sir Jojo, waiting for her to continue. In the end, the two of them waited in vain. After waiting for a long time, Sir Jojo didn't speak with an expressionless face. Qi Xianxian twitched her mouth and asked cautiously, That's all?" Sir Jojo nodded. Qi Xianxian secretly rolled her eyes and resisted the urge to burst into laughter. She coughed lightly and said, "Jojo, did His Highness the Crown Prince tell you that you're really not suited to gossip? You expect someone who could kill a conversation with a casual chat to tell you gossip? What a joke." Xiao Xiao glanced at her suspiciously. "Are you secretly laughing at me?" "No." Qi Xianxian tried to maintain a serious expression on her face, but she didn't expect that the little monk beside her would be the first to laugh out loud. Poking Arbor's arm with his chubby fingers, little Fatty said in a childish voice, "Benefactress, your gossip is only 4 words." Sir Jojo looked at the little monk with an expressionless face. "We agreed just now that you will go in when we reach the shrine." The little monk hurriedly pursed his diamond-shaped lips and shook his head. "Benefactress, this little monk needs to come out and get some fresh air. Otherwise, I'm going to die from being cooped up inside." Qi Xianxian almost died from laughing at the little fat monk. She reached out and hugged the little monk, pinching his cheeks. "Jojo, this little monk is really interesting." "Benefactress friend, don't pinch my face." Qi Xianxian laughed loudly. Along the way, with the little monk nagging from time to time, Qi Xianxian didn't feel so bored anymore. In addition, everyone was quite relaxed right now, so the 4-hour journey felt like it didn't take long for them to arrive. The Sun Moon Shrine was built at the end of the Red River Canyon. At this time, after 4 hours of shaking, the Red River Canyon had long since stopped. Chapter 31:30. However, looking from afar, the entire valley was more than 1 hill shorter than before. Evidently, that place had basically been razed to the ground. The Sun Moon Shrine was built near the water, and was surrounded by a water vein. It was formed by lush, exotic flowers and trees. The entire main hall was faintly discernible amidst the green water and trees, with only a few raised eaves exposed occasionally. The holy sun led everyone to a stop in front of the mountain gate. The entire mountain gate rose steeply from the ground and pierced straight into the clouds. The words Sun Moon Shrine were engraved on it. Everyone consciously recalled their spirit beasts and stood in front of the mountain gate. Arbor naturally floated down from the heavenly horsetail feather and put away her divine weapon. Qi Xianxian had just taken a nap on the heavenly horsetail feather, so she appeared refreshed and spirited. She stood next to the little fatty and immediately chuckled mischievously. "Fatty, Jojo's feather is really not bad. Sleeping on it is much more comfortable than the wooden bed yesterday." When the little fatty heard this, he was instantly envious. He also wanted to hop onto Jojo's heavenly horsetail feather earlier. However, after Prince Mo's indifferent gaze swept over him, he didn't dare to be rash. Woo-woo. Sir Jojo didn't sleep earlier, but he was a bit regretful now. When Holy Sun Mi Yin entered the mountain gate, everyone very consciously formed a line and filed in one after another. Sir Jojo was carried by Mo Lien, and he was at the back of the line with Duan Yu and the rest. Meanwhile, the little monk followed beside them. His small, chubby hand was subconsciously holding onto a corner of Mo Lien's robe. "Kong Kong, you don't have a jade tablet to enter the secret realm," Qi Xianxian whispered to him. "How about we have benefactress send you back after we've settled down?" The little monk shook his head like a rattledrum. Sir Jojo looked down at him, feeling a bit exasperated. When this imp was on Paradise Planet, he played so enthusiastically with Xiao Shui and the rest. At that time, he didn't insist on staying with him. However, it would have been better if he hadn't seen her. The moment he saw her, he refused to let go. No matter what, he refused to go back to Paradise Planet to play. "I'll let you follow me, but you have to be obedient." Arbor lowered his head and said, "Don't talk to me all day long." The small monk's eyes lit up, and he nodded his head. Crown Prince Mo turned his head to meet her disapprovingly. The journey to the mystic realm was filled with unpredictable dangers. It was unwise to leave this little brat by his side. Arbor tugged at his sleeve. "Forget it. Leaving him on Paradise Planet all day long will make him bored. I'll coax him first before letting him in." Prince Mo immediately felt a little sour in his heart. His little wife was too good to this little fat monk. She was simply raising him like a little son. The crown prince felt as if his position was being threatened. The one who came to welcome the Holy Sun was a middle-aged priest-like man called Tai Shan. Holy Sun Mi Yin was very respectful to him. It seemed that he should be an old man in the temple. "Temple Master is worried," Tai Shan said with a smile. "He's wondering why Lord Holy Sun and the rest haven't returned yet. The mystic realm is about to open. If we miss it, we'll have to wait another 10 years. I've made Temple Master worry." Holy Sun Mi Yin gracefully bowed to Priest Tai Shan. "Uncle Tai Shan, please arrange for them to rest in the guest room." Tai Shan nodded and smiled at the crowd. "Please follow me." Chapter 31-31. Everyone hurriedly bowed to Tai Shan and was about to follow him to the back courtyard. A dazzling light rose from the back mountain of the shrine. That light actually pierced through the clouds and seemed to reach beyond the 9 heavens. Everyone, who was originally dispirited and sleepy, couldn't help but be shocked. Everyone raised their eyes and looked in the direction of the light. Priest Tai Shan was also slightly stunned. Then he smiled and said, "Ah, it's better to be early than to come at the right time. Holy Sun, everyone, as you can see, the secret realm has just opened. Looks like you can't rest anymore." Tai Shan said with a smile. "After the secret realm opens, you must immediately enter within 2 hours. Otherwise, if the secret realm's entrance closes, you won't be able to enter." The Holy Sun naturally understood this point. Hearing this, he nodded and turned to the crowd. "Everyone, follow me into the mystic realm now." Everyone had originally come here for the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm. So many bitter tears and so many things had happened along the way. It could be said that they had narrowly escaped death and finally arrived at the shrine. The earlier they entered the secret realm, the earlier they could search for treasures. To everyone, This was a matter of great joy. Naturally, no one would object to it. Hearing Holy Sun's words, everyone nodded in agreement. Lord Jojo raised his hand and threw a talisman, temporarily keeping the little monk in it. Seeing that everyone agreed, Holy Sun Mi Yin turned and bowed to Priest Taishan. Uncle Taishan, then I'll bring them over first. About the temple master. Don't worry, I'll explain to the temple master. Taishan nodded with a smile. Holy Sun, you have to be careful along the way. Holy Sun nodded. Suddenly, he stopped and turned back, asking indifferently, I wonder if Uncle Taishan has seen the holy nun come back? Taishan couldn't help but be startled. Then he smiled and shook his head. I haven't seen the holy nun. Holy Sun closed his eyes slightly and nodded with a faint expression. Okay, then we'll go first. After saying that, he turned around and led everyone towards the place where the light shone. Taishan narrowed his eyes and looked at the chosen saint's departing figure. He silently retracted his gaze. Soon, Taishan's figure disappeared from the corridor. Coming to a closed cultivation room, Taishan respectfully bowed to a middle-aged man with gray hair sitting cross-legged on a kong. I've already opened the secret realm in advance according to your instructions. The man sat still for a long time, and the air was filled with a deathly stillness. After about half an incense stick's worth of time, the gray-haired man opened his eyes slightly and asked indifferently, They went. Yes. Did the saint say anything else? She didn't say anything, but before she left, she asked about the sage nun's whereabouts. The gray-haired man narrowed his eyes and sneered. It seems that he is already suspicious. Hall Master. The gray-haired man raised his hand slightly, stopping Taishan from continuing. It doesn't matter. This time, none of them will come out of the secret realm. Those who obey the heavens will prosper, and those who defy the heavens will die. The Hall Master of the Sun Moon Temple very devoutly bowed in the direction of the sky. Taishan didn't say anything else, but he faintly sighed in his heart. It was not easy for them to cultivate the Holy Sun to such a level. Chapter 31-32. The Palace Master was truly vicious and merciless. The Temple Holy Sun gave up just like that. It was also the Holy Sun's own fault for being stubborn. The Temple Master had already hinted to him several times, but the Holy Sun was either stupid or too stubborn. He actually thought that the temple should be a symbol of light and justice, an existence that saved the world. He couldn't blame others for being ruthless. He could only blame the Holy Sun for being too stupid. Holy Sun Mi Yin faintly had a bad premonition. He paused, turned around, and walked toward Emolien, Arbor, and the others. You're right. The Temple Master may have joined the evil cult as you said. Sir Jojo said expressionlessly. What do you plan to do? Holy Sun Mi Yin looked up at the sky with a worried expression. I didn't expect that our holy and bright Temple Master would end up like this. I don't know if the Temple Master is involved, or Sir Jojo couldn't help but roll his eyes at the sky. Do you think that without the support of your Temple Master, the Holy Daughter would have changed so much? Then did the two Temple Masters also join the Sky Fortune Temple? I feel that except for you, the whole Temple Master should have joined. Prince Emo said straightforwardly. Your Temple Master should have hinted to you to defect, right? Holy Sun Mi Yin was a bit dumbfounded. He racked his brains to recall, and showed a distressed expression. Since our Temple Master was founded, it has always been the most holy and sacred place in the hearts of the people in the 3 states. We worship the most powerful weapon formed by the essence of the sun and moon, since the creation of the world. We are already surrounded by a halo. Why do we need to cling to others? Can you stop bragging? Sir Jojo's face was expressionless, as he silently complained in his heart. But I didn't expect that today, the Temple Master would completely change. Sir Jojo leaned over and patted his shoulder hard. Now there's only one way for you to continue. What? Betray the Divine Hall. Holy Sun Mi Yin stares at her blankly for quite a while, and then shakes her head vigorously. No, it hasn't come to this, right? For this trip to the secret realm, the Palace Master must have received orders from Tian Yun to kill all of us inside. Do you believe it? We were just testing the waters along the way. The inside is filled with danger. Are you scared? The little stoic cast him a sidelong glance, and asked expressionlessly. No, I'm not. All right then, we'll talk about it after we get in. You'd better think it through. From now on, you'll be in the same boat as us. Your palace master didn't tell you anything. It's clear that he wants you to be buried with us. Since he is heartless, there is no need for you to talk about loyalty with him. Xiaomu retracted her small paw and leaned against Emolian. How about we discuss something? What do you think? Holy Sun Mi Yin only felt his eyelid twitch. He felt that since this little fellow could be so amiable towards him, it definitely wasn't anything good. Since you are the temple's holy son, you've naturally entered the Sun-Moon's secret realm countless times. How about you tell us the main points? Where are the good things hidden? And where are the unnecessary crooked paths? Lest we take a detour inside without realizing it, we'd better get straight to the point. Chapter 31-33. Because they had already wasted a lot of time on the way here. There was really no need to continue wasting time. Arbor saw that he opened his mouth but didn't say anything, so he said expressionlessly, Since you're not talking, then I'll take it that you've agreed. Let's go. Holy Sun Mi Yin, when did he agree to this girl's request? Do you have to talk to yourself like this? Holy Sun Mi Yin turned around and walked towards the front of the group. Just now, when he deliberately went around to talk to Emolian and the others, everyone saw it. Although they didn't dare to follow, they all strained their ears to listen. Unfortunately, they were a little far away, and when Mi Yen and Emolian were talking, they deliberately lowered their voices, so naturally no one could hear what they were talking about. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in a bit of a mess. That was because they were uncertain about the future, and their hearts were filled with a little bit of hesitation. It's nothing, Holy Sun Mi Yin said to everyone indifferently. The entrance is just ahead. Follow me. For some reason, his left eyelid kept twitching violently, and he had a feeling that this trip to the mystic realm wouldn't be too smooth. Holy Sun Mi Yin took a deep breath and led everyone out of the rear hall of the shrine, coming to an area shrouded in holy light. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but be shocked by the strange scenery before them. In the light pillar, that mystic realm was like a fairyland suspended in mid-air, faintly emitting wisps of white light, which slowly rotated around the light pillar. Everyone raised their heads and couldn't help but cry out in surprise. That was a mystic realm. It really was like a fairyland on earth. Everyone's gaze circled around that light pillar, but they didn't find any place for them to go in. Holy Sun Mi Yin saw everyone's doubts and couldn't help but smile. Here, he led everyone to a row of jade pillars carved with dragons and phoenixes. Counting from the left, he stopped in front of the third pillar. Taking out a jade tablet, he waved it in front of everyone. Press the jade tablet that was issued to you on it, and you can walk into the transportation array. I'll wait for you inside. After saying that, the holy sun was instantly covered in a layer of floating light, and he disappeared in a few minutes. Ba Shu took a step forward and said with a smile, I'll open the way for everyone. Seeing this, everyone could not help but sneer. You're opening the way. You're just in a hurry to enter the secret realm. You're afraid that someone will snatch the treasures before you. Everyone looked on coldly as Ba Shu's sturdy body flashed under the light and disappeared without a trace. Following that, everyone followed suit and pressed their jade tokens against the pillars to enter the teleportation array. Arbor and Emolian were the last two to enter. As soon as the two of them entered, they saw a large ship docked in front of them. In front of them was a row of sandy beaches with rolling blue waves. In an instant, the two of them were stunned. Jojo subconsciously raised his head and looked around, but he did not see anyone else who had come in. They're probably all on the boat. Emolian held her little hand and walked along the beach. They climbed up the ladder and boarded the big boat. Sure enough, as soon as they walked onto the deck, they saw Holy Sun Mi Yin, who had been waiting for a long time. Why are you two so slow? Come here quickly. Holy Sun Mi Yin turned around and led them forward. Hey, why is your transportation array so strange? It even looks like a ship? That's natural. Speaking of this, Holy Sun Mi Yin couldn't help but feel a little complacent. Chapter 31-34. This is the most ancient teleportation array that has been passed down in our temple. Do you think a real teleportation array is just a round plate that flashes and sends you out? Arbor pursed her lips. That's the lowest level teleportation array. Holy Sun Mi Yin looked up at the sky and sighed. A teleportation array like this can take all kinds of forms. Some can make you wander in the sea like a boat. Some can fly in the sky. What's even more amazing is the point. The point is to pass through the void. Holy Sun Mi Yin grumbled as he cast a sidelong glance at Crown Prince Mo, who was standing on the side silently. You tore open the void, so the furthest you can go shouldn't exceed 5,000 kilometers. Our teleportation array is different. It can cross the ocean in minutes. Jojo's lotus is the power of one person. You have the power of the entire array, which is thousands of talismans. How can you compare this with Jojo's lotus? Arbor immediately interrupted Holy Sun Mi Yan's words and said with displeasure, "You're so unreliable." Holy Sun. Mo Lian didn't say anything and just glanced at the Holy Sun, who was a bit listless. This ship will take us through the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm. I have to remind you that the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm has a history. When I told everyone about it just now, both of you weren't here. Go ahead. The reason why it's called the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm is that this mystery realm has day and night. 8 hours per rotation. During the day, the sun shines high and the flames are like fire. At night, the moon is as cold as water, and you feel like you've fallen into an ice cave. Arbor blinked her eyes. Then how long can we stay in there? We can only stay in the mystery realm for 30 days at most. If we don't come out after 30 days, we'll have to wait for 10 years before the mystery realm opens again. Oh, what? Do you remember what I told you? Holy Sun Mi Yin said with a solemn look. We're not here for fun. If we don't handle it well, we'll lose our lives in there. It's good to have the opportunity, but don't force it if you don't have it. Let me tell you. Holy Sun Mi Yin turned his head and found that the young couple was already very far away from him, holding hands. The saint felt a tinge of sadness in his heart. Why were these people so impatient? Was there anything that she couldn't let him finish? Jojo, over here, over here. Qi Xianxian waved at her excitedly. The two of them hurriedly walked over. Lady Xiqiao also released the small monk from the storage talisman. In any case, they had already entered the teleportation charm array, so they didn't have to worry about bringing another small monk into the secret realm. Benefactress. The moment the little monk came out, he swayed his body and said with a red face, I need to pee. Everyone was speechless. Wait a moment, wait until we reach the secret realm. I can't hold it in anymore. The little fellow's face was flushed red. On the side, Duan Yu couldn't resist face-palming. With a lift of his hand, he lifted this little thing up. I'll take him there. I don't want you, I want female benefactor. The small monk swayed in midair as he kicked his legs. I want it even if you don't want it. Mo Lian grumpily shouted at him. Hurry up and go. If you don't, I'll make you pee in the storage talisman. The little monk's eyes abruptly turned round. Jojo. Qi Xianxian squeezed to her side and mysteriously took out a tattered piece of paper, placing it in front of her. Chapter 31-35. Arbor suddenly felt a sense of déjà vu. This fellow seemed to have gotten a map from somewhere before and sneakily showed it to her. Little Fatty's eyes widened as he hurriedly said, Hey Xianxian, why did you buy a map again? Arbor's mouth twitched. She recalled that before these two fellows entered the top academy, they had been tricked by Mata and bought a fake map. Go away, what do you know? Qi Xianxian pushed little Fatty. This is a real map. Jojo, look, isn't this map very intricate? Let me tell you, it wasn't easy for me to snatch this map. After we enter the mystic realm, we'll follow this map. Arbor looked at her speechlessly for a while. She casually took the map from her hands and flipped it open to take a look. Where did you get this? Just now, there was a person from the temple selling it mysteriously. Luckily, my eyes were sharp enough to see it. There were only 2 or 3 maps, I snatched them. How much did you spend? Arbor asked expressionlessly. I spent 10,000 spirit coins. Lady Xianxian carefully glanced at Arbor. Is it not expensive? 10,000 spirit coins. Little Fatty's roar was stopped by Qi Xianxian. Lower your voice. I can't let others know that I bought this map. I think you must have been tricked. Who did you buy it from? I'll ask him for money. Little Fatty's voice was once again stopped by Qi Xianxian. Xiaomu coughed lightly and folded the map that Qi Xianxian had brought over. She then handed it back to Qi Xianxian and said with a nod, ask who bought it. Point out the person for me. Qi Xianxian felt guilty. She secretly pointed at a temple priest, who was talking loudly with someone at the side of the fence. Arbor stood up. Qi Xianxian hurriedly reached out to pull her, but she broke free. Arbor stomped over, and Little Fatty naturally followed behind her, rushing over together. Arbor walked behind the fat priest, and gave the Little Fatty a wink. Little Fatty stepped forward and patted that person's shoulder. The priest turned around, and was startled at first when he saw Little Fatty. Then, his gaze shifted down and landed on the little stoic. Who didn't know who the little stoic was? The temple's priest hastily put on a smile. Miss Jojo, is something the matter? You only have half a map. The temple priest's face stiffened. Give me the other half. What? The little stoic didn't lower her voice again. When the other people who had bought the map heard this, they also jumped up. This map is only half a map? After spending so many spirit coins, he only got half a map. Who knew if this half map was only at the periphery of the secret realm? Who would be so foolish as to be fooled like this? Hurry and hand over the other half. There's still 10,000 spirit coins left. The little stoic said coldly. You want to scam people? Humph, you should see who you're scamming. That temple priest suddenly did a somersault and flipped down from the ship's railing. Everyone hastily leaned over the railing to take a look, only to see that this guy had already flown to the bottom deck and escaped into the cabin. Fuck. Just as everyone wanted to chase after him, that ship had already started moving. The narrow-eyed Holy Sun reminded everyone, right now, we're being transported into the secret realm through a large transportation formation. The process will take about 3 minutes, so don't move recklessly. Because you're not truly at sea, but passing through the void. Chapter 31-36. If you fall, we won't be responsible. The Holy Sun said aloofly, you probably don't want to know what the outcome will be if you fall. Everyone involuntarily shuddered when they heard this. Fuck, this was a trip to the void. If they fell out of the ship, they would fly out of this large transportation array and fall into the void. If they were lucky, they would probably drift in the void for tens of millions of years. If they were unlucky, they would be torn into pieces by the void at any moment and vanish into thin air, vanishing from this world. The little stoic also didn't move. In any case, the monk could run away, but the temple couldn't. There would always be a chance to make this shrine's priest spit out the 10,000 spirit coins he took. The little fatty rolled up his sleeves. This Holy Sun Mi Yin is doing this on purpose, right? Their priest swindled so many spirit coins. We were just about to chase after him when that ship moved. It truly didn't move earlier or later. The timing was just perfect. Arbor nodded his small head. He also felt that this was Mi Yan's small revenge for swindling him of so many spirit coins. Miser. If Holy Sun Mi Yen could hear Sir Jojo's inner thoughts, he would definitely vomit blood from anger. Who the fuck was the miser here? She previously swindled him out of more than 9 million spirit coins, and he didn't even need to give her change for 10 million. Now he was merely swindled out of 10,000 spirit coins. Look at this guy, he rolled up his sleeves and wanted to find someone to get it back. It was clear who was the miser here. Thump thump. The entire ship suddenly shook, and everyone on board was jolted. Sir Jojo quickly grabbed the railing, and his body swayed violently. Emolian swiftly flashed to her side and hugged her into her arms. She then patted her back, her expression relaxing. On the other side, Duan Yu happened to be carrying the little monk, who had finished dealing with him, to the second deck. When the ship's hull swayed, Duan Yu promptly picked up the little monk and flashed to the ship's cabin door. Holy Sun Mi Yan's expression changed drastically. Everyone be careful. Someone is using a special method to force their way into the array. Be careful. Our landing this time won't be too stable. Be careful. Everyone couldn't help but curse in their hearts. What the fuck? Could it be that this group of people were possessed by the god of bad luck? Why was it that every time they landed, there would always be some random situation? Attention everyone, we're about to pass through the void and enter the secret realm. Holy Sun Miyin roared. Everyone felt as if their faces were covered with a layer of water film, and their breathing stopped in an instant. However, this feeling of suffocation came and went as quickly as it came. It was as if his entire body had drilled through a layer of watery membrane. Suddenly, there was a sense of weightlessness. Almost at the same time, everyone screamed out in shock. Everyone tried their best to stabilize themselves in the air. But there were always two idiots who didn't have time to react and fell down. With a bang, he fell into the vast blue ocean. Arbor was held in Emolien's arms. Floating in the air, he looked down and saw that the blue ocean was a strange sea of flowers. Each flower was the size of a ball and was extremely large. Everyone was taken aback when those two idiots fell down. When they saw them drowning in the sea of flowers, they were also shocked. It was over. There was a sea of man-eating flowers below. They had just entered the secret realm and already lost two idiot teammates. Swoosh. Before everyone could finish their thoughts, they saw those two people flying into the sky. Chapter 31-37. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. Fortunately, this wasn't the worst ending yet. Those two idiots weren't stupid and jumped out of the man-eating flower sea. But they didn't expect that they didn't jump out. They were bounced out. This bounced over their heads then. With a bang, they fell down on all fours. Everyone. Whoosh. Bang. Whoosh. Bang. Sir Jojo's gaze followed the two idiots back and forth. He watched as the two of them jumped up and down, bouncing off the giant blue flower below them. They were sent flying for more than 100 feet, before finally turning into two small black dots. Ha 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 ha. It was unknown which brother it was, but he actually laughed heartily in such an unkind manner. Everyone turned to look at him expressionlessly. That guy probably felt that his laughter was too unkind, so he quickly put on a serious face, puffed up his cheeks, and looked at them while holding his breath. At this moment, the priest who sold Qi Xianxian half of the map took out several pieces of tattered paper from his bosom and flipped through them one by one. The more he flipped through the paper, the worse his complexion became. He muttered under his breath, not here either? Not this one. Not this one. Sir, the place we came in this time is different from the place we came in a dozen times before. The idiots who bought the map. Why do I want to beat you to death so much? One of the men who bought the map raised his hand and said angrily, this bastard actually had so many entrance maps in his hands. He just casually gave one away and sold it for money. It turned out that every time this guy came in, the entrance was different. So what was the use of selling old maps? The temple priest who sold the map was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. Don't you understand? We are really unlucky this time. Even people from the temple have never been to such a mystic realm. This is equivalent to a brand new mystic realm spreading out under our feet. We don't know where the dangers are, and where the opportunities are. We can't effectively avoid the dangers. Then everyone will be finished. Holy Sun Mayan looked at him expressionlessly. Put away your lousy map and pay attention to your feet. Now let's continue to. The priest who sold the map suddenly screamed. His whole body was dragged down by a long blue beard. With a bang, he fell into the sea of flowers. Everyone thought that he was going to be bounced dozens of feet away like a pinball. Who knew one of the blue spherical flowers suddenly opened all its petals, like a monster opening its huge mouth, and swallowed the priest who sold the map in one gulp. Everyone! Exclamation point. Everyone was truly stunned. There were no words to describe their feelings at this moment. They had just entered the mystic realm, and 3 of their teammates had already been poisoned. 2 were missing, and 1 was eaten? Arbor's mouth twitched. Suddenly, he threw out a vine whip and smashed it at the blue flower. Still not releasing him? A whip formed from holy wood was no joke. The suppression of holy wood contained in it forced all the flowers and plants to submit to it. As soon as he threw it over, the ball-shaped giant flower quickly opened its petals and spat out the priest who was selling the map. Chapter 31-38. That person's head was still wrapped in a layer of blue mucus, and he looked quite disgusting. Radiant Sunday, the saint hurriedly helped him and let him float up. Seeing that disgusting sticky appearance, the saint couldn't help but feel a little nauseous. He suppressed the urge to vomit, and his chest heaved slightly. Arbor had already pinched his little nose and urged Emolien to stay far away from that person. Once the two of them moved, everyone hurriedly followed. Zhongli Jue looked coldly in the direction of Arbor and Emolien, and also chased after them. Saint Mien. This Gu family's young master Guishuan seemed very quiet along the way, as if he didn't exist. Now that he spoke, everyone looked at him questioningly. Guishuan didn't mind and just asked Saint Mien indifferently, "May I know who those people who forced their way into the array are?" Holy Sun Mien frowned and shook his head. "I don't know. It's just that I'm guessing that they don't come with good intentions." The truth didn't allow him to ignore this problem. Who could force outsiders into the teleportation array? Of course, it could only be someone like the temple manager, or more likely the temple master of the temple. Holy Sun Mien narrowed his eyes and sighed deeply. He looked up at the sea of blue flowers that stretched into the distance. "Let's go ahead and take a look first. Anyway, everyone must be careful. Those people who forced their way into the array are definitely not on the same side as us." When everyone heard the saint's words, they all raised their guard. They thought that if they encountered those people who forced their way into the array, they shouldn't be the bird that sticks out first. They should observe the situation first. At this time, everyone was plotting their own schemes as they followed Emolien, who was leading the way at the front. At this moment, they already knew that the sea of blue flowers below would fling out long tentacles from time to drag people down. They just needed to pay attention to avoid them while floating in the air. The long tentacles didn't fling out very frequently. As long as they were careful, they could completely avoid them without touching them at all. In this manner, Emolien drifted above the blue sea of flowers for about half an incense stick's worth of time before stopping. Holy Sun Mien also stopped with narrowed eyes. Duan Yu flew over while carrying the little monk. He looked at Holy Sun Mien with a spurious smile and asked, "Lord Holy Sun, what do we do now? There's clearly a barrier in the sky. We can't fly out of this area no matter how hard we try." Duan Yu said with a chuckle, "As long as we are floating, then we definitely won't be able to leave this sea of flowers." Emolien raised her slender brows and turned to look at Duan Yu with the little stoic in her arms. Although Holy Sun Mien did not react as quickly as Emolien, it did not take him long to recover from Duan Yu's words. "Prince Chen, what do you mean?" Duan Yu looked at the flabbergasted and wide-eyed Holy Sun in amusement. "Yes." He nodded. "It's simply a disgrace to our culture." Holy Sun Mien waved his hand righteously. "How can I, a Holy Sun, do this? Just like that. Like this." As he spoke, he waved his right hand and cursed with a strange expression on his face. Sir Jojo expressionlessly looked at these three lunatics who were speaking in riddles. "Speak human. Benefactress Duan Yu's meaning is, we still have to go down and be ejected like those two idiots from before," the little monk said with his head raised. Chapter 31-39. Unless you get bounced off, you won't be able to leave this sea of flowers, even if you fly for 10,000 years. Sir Jojo's small mouth gaped into an O shape and only closed it after a while. She lowered her head and looked at the endless sea of flowers. So those two idiots who got bounced off just now actually found the correct path and left this mystic realm's entrance before them? Perhaps those two idiots were still secretly rejoicing in their hearts, laughing at them for not being able to cross over. Sir Jojo expressionlessly glanced at them. Then go down. What else could they do? Besides being bounced off, they couldn't find any other path to walk. "Is this entrance set up like this?" Arbor asked the Holy Sun again. Holy Sun Mien's expression right now was extremely fascinating. He clearly didn't want to experience this bouncing process. But the problem was that according to Duan Yu's words, they couldn't cross without bouncing off. That priest who sold the map was following behind Sir Holy Sun, so he naturally heard everyone's heated discussion. At this moment, he steeled his heart and closed his eyes. With a resolute expression, he shouted at Sir Holy Sun, "Sir, I'll go first." "Sir Jojo." That map seller rolled into that sea of flowers with a bang. And sure enough, he was bounced out very quickly. One bounce bounced half a day high, one bounce bounced far away. "Ah!" he screamed as he fell back in with a bang, and then bounced out again. This repeated many times until he was bounced far away, and everyone could no longer see his foolish figure. Holy Sun Miyan's handsome face had already turned green. Fuck, what kind of mystic realm entrance method was this? It was too bizarre. As everyone can see, you can only leave by bouncing off. The little monk expressionlessly explained from the side. Qi Xianxian and company also turned green as they looked down at that sea of flowers. Qin Jiu was about to jump down, but Qin Xian tugged at him with twitching lips. "We're not in a hurry, let the others go first." Everyone's faces twitched. These words sounded weird no matter how they sounded. Moreover, the person playing at the front would make a fool of himself in front of a large group of people behind him. It would indeed be unsightly. Eldest young Master Qin was right. The further back one played, the more noble one's status would be. Like the Crown Prince or the Grand Prince, you can't let them play first, right? If the princes were to make a fool of themselves, the first thing they would do when they returned to the capital would be to kill all of them to silence them. All right. I'll let those who need it go first. Who knows? Maybe they'll be sent to a place with great opportunities, and they'll be one step ahead of everyone else. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little better. Some people jumped down without any explanation, bouncing off and bouncing off into the distance, until most of the people were bounced away, leaving only Holy Sun Miyan, Emol Yen, and the others with dark faces. Mu Xingchen looked down at Mu Rochuan, who was leaning on him in a daze and unable to speak. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Just as he was about to turn his gaze to Arbor, he heard eldest young Master Qin say with a laugh, "All right, the irrelevant people have all scrammed far away. How should we go now?" Sir Jojo shifted his little body, looking somewhat eager to try in Emolien's arms. Emolien quickly reached out to press down on his little body, exasperated. "Don't move." Chapter 3140. Sir Jojo glanced at him exasperatedly. Didn't he say he wanted to go down and play? Sir Jojo wasn't afraid of ruining his image, so Sir Jojo should play first. Wait until Sir Jojo is far away before you play. Otherwise, you'll be traumatized when you see Sir Jojo in the future, and think that Sir Jojo will laugh at you bunch of uncles in his mind. Duanyu wanted to laugh. On the side, the little monk couldn't resist shouting, "Benefactress, you're too naive." Benefactress Duanyu was lying earlier. Arbor had the urge to smack the little monk's butt. "You're a freaking monk, yet you followed Duanyu in telling lies. Then you turned around and called her naive." Haha, unrelated people don't have to leave. Duanyu swept a glance at them. Originally, he planned to make these people scram first, and then have Jojo take out the holy wood to intimidate them. Then he might as well store all these blue spherical flowers into Jojo's Saji star. But these people didn't scram now, so he naturally couldn't allow Jojo to open the spirit domain and leak its aura to let others know. At this moment, Lady Xiqiao finally reacted. She then looked at everyone expressionlessly. A purple storage talisman suddenly flew out in front of her. The little fellow silently chanted in her mind, "Qiuqiu, put away your underlings. Don't let them block the way here." A vine darted out from under her sleeve with a whoosh and landed in the blue ocean with a swish at lightning speed. Immediately afterward, everyone saw those huge blue spherical flowers tremble a few times before obediently lining up in rows. Then the storage talisman sucked in swaths of areas. These little blue flowers were actually quite docile. It could be seen from how they didn't easily attack people. If it was a bunch of berserk plants, Arbor really wouldn't be able to store them into the storage talisman first. After all, this wasn't her territory like the star domain. A mere storage talisman really couldn't subdue a bunch of berserk plants if it wasn't handled properly. Holy Sun Miyan stared at the little stoic flabbergasted. At this moment, he finally somewhat understood why the little stoic vehemently objected to the rule in the oath that one could only take one treasure from the mystic realm. Looking at her posture, It really felt like she was going to empty out the entire mystic realm. Everyone floated down from the sky. When Holy Sun Mi Yin came back to his senses, he turned to glare at Duan Yu and exclaimed, "You punk, you actually deceived me. Didn't you just say that you have to bounce it over?" "When did I say that?" Duan Yu calmly glanced at him. "Wasn't this what the child said? You actually believed the words of a child." Holy Sun Mi Yin. It seemed like Duan Yu didn't say that she had to bounce to cross, but Duan Yu only said that she couldn't cross if she was floating above. Duan Yu's true meaning was that she had to walk on the ground. It was obvious that Mo Lien understood what he meant, but she didn't say anything. She purposely misled the Holy Sun in the direction of the ricochet. Duan Yu, this swindler, truly couldn't swindle anymore. The most ridiculous thing was that the little monk actually made up some nonsense and led everyone astray. This little monk was too good at bullshitting. Look at how many people he tricked like balls. Monks are merciful at heart, ah. No, you can't lie. Holy Sun Mi Yin pointed at the little monk in exasperation. The little monk looked at him adorably with his watery eyes. Suddenly, he burst into tears. Chapter 3141. Holy Sun Mi Yin was stupefied. He felt like he was played by the little monk again. Sir Jojo, however, became anxious. He grumpily said to Holy Sun Mi Yin, "Why are you being so serious with the child? What does he know? You're already old enough to be his great-grandfather. Of all the things you could do, you just had to make life difficult for a child." Holy Sun Mi Yin, "Fine, it's all his fault." All right. Little monk, it's your great-grandfather's fault. Ha, don't cry. Everyone. Sir Jojo turned his little head. "Hurry up and leave." Just as they were speaking, there were still a few people who were holding back. Seeing that the path ahead was cleared, they hurriedly abandoned their conversation and ran off first. Sir Jojo can't work for nothing. Qi Xianxian and company also hurriedly ran over at this moment. As they ran, they said, "Ayo, look at these people. They're going to snatch the treasure before us." "Treasure? Where is the treasure?" "Treasure?" Mu Rochuan was agitated by the word treasure. She weakly opened her eyes and turned her head to look at the path they came from. Only then did she realize that this place was actually not in the shrine anymore. "This big brother, have we entered the mystic realm? A half-dead person actually still wants to snatch the treasure." Qi Xianxian mockingly smiled. She turned her head and said indifferently, "Don't throw your life away here." "What did you say?" Mu Rochuan stuttered as she shouted at Qi Xianxian. You actually dare to curse me? Don't talk nonsense with her." Arbor pulled Qi Xuanxuan's small arm. Qi Xianxian instantly swallowed the scolding that rushed out of her mouth. She snorted, turned her head, and quickly ran forward. Mu Xingqian laughed bitterly. "Rochuan, save your energy. Later, find a safe place. I'll help you sit down and rest for a while." "No, big brother, we can't rest. We have to find." Mu Rochuan forcefully held her breath and tightly grabbed Mu Xingqian's arm. "Big brother, I must find the sun wheel or the moon wheel." Aye. At this moment, Mu Xingqian's speed had already gradually weakened. Because he had to take care of this heavily injured girl. Everyone could abandon Mu Rochuan, but not him. However, Mu Xingqian's patience was almost worn out. "Rochuan, I can only guarantee that I'll bring you out of this mystic realm alive. I can't guarantee anything else." "Big brother, no, I can't." Mu Rochuan grabbed Mu Xingqian's arm tightly and used all her strength to shout. I must find. Do you think Mu Xingqian is stupid? Why does he have to bring that sickly person along?" Qi Xianxian was filled with anger, but she couldn't vent it out. The more she looked at Mu Xingqian, the more she disliked him. Instead of trying to get close to such a good biological sister, he insisted on chatting with a fake sister. Arbor sighed. Let him be. She knew that Xianxian's heart ached for her, but Big Brother was already an adult. He naturally had his own opinions and thoughts. Sir Jojo had always been tolerant towards friends and family. He would never force them to make a choice. Emolian raised her hand and patted the back of her head. "Jojo, those blue spherical flowers just now will be planted in front of our Eastern Palace's entrance in the future. If one comes, I'll flick one away. If one comes, I'll flick one away." "Arbor, Qi Xianqian's mouth twitched. Fuck, Your Highness, can you not be so childish? Chapter 3142. Big Brother. I'll tell you. Mu Rochuan leaned close to Mu Xingqian's shoulder and said in a low voice, That Arbor she will definitely fight with me. Rochuan, you're so sick that you're muddle-headed. Can you stop? She will definitely fight with me. Mu Rochuan tilted her head somewhat neurotically and said with a slightly distorted expression, Big Brother, tell me, are you going to help her or me? She suddenly slumped to the ground and started crying. If you don't help me, I definitely won't be able to win against her in anything. Boo-hoo. Rochuan. Mu Xingqian's head felt like it was splitting. He could not help but shout angrily, You're about to die. Mu Rochuan felt as though she had been struck by lightning. She sat there in a daze and only came back to her senses after a while. Her lips trembled as she said, How is that possible? I am the eldest daughter of the Mu family. I am a genius. Genius, how can I die? The lightning energy in your body has never been removed. It has been wantonly destroying your Dantian's spiritual ruin realm. Your spiritual ruin realm is about to completely shatter. When that happens, all the spirit energy in your spiritual ruin realm will explode and flow through your limbs. You won't be able to withstand it and will be torn apart. You're lying to me. You're lying to me. Mu Rochuan mustered a strength from somewhere and pushed her brother, Mu Xingqian, to the ground. Mu Xingqian was shocked and quickly said, Rochuan, don't be agitated. You, liar, you're all lying to me. You're all lying to me. How can I die? I won't die, I won't. She stumbled forward and fell to the ground. Then, she immediately sat up and ran into the distance. Mu Xingqian hurriedly got up and wanted to chase after her. But after a few steps, he realized that the scenery in front of him had changed. He was in another scene. His heart skipped a beat as he thought to himself, This is bad. The scene in this mystic realm is definitely not fixed. It should randomly change after a certain hour. And now, he had reached the point of this change. His vision darkened instantly. It was so dark that he could not see his fingers. The temperature was also rapidly dropping. Mu Xingqian's guess was right. He was currently transitioning from the sun realm to the moon realm. The scariest thing was that it was so dark that you had no sense of direction at all. Sir Qiao Qiao reflexively grabbed onto Emolien's clothes, and her small body involuntarily leaned into his embrace. Her large, black eyes vigilantly looked back and forth in the dark night, but she really couldn't see anything in this instant when it was dark. Don't worry. Emolien's steady voice sounded in her ears, causing Miss Qiao to relax a little. Previously, when they had just entered the mystic realm, they were all thinking about how to cross the sea of flowers, so they did not notice how high the temperature was at that time. It could also be because everyone was mobilizing their spiritual energy at that time, concentrating on guarding against those blue spherical flowers, so they naturally ignored the ambient temperature. At this moment, Arbor suddenly felt colder and colder, but Emolien's body was like a heater. The little fellow squeezed into his arms and asked in a low voice, Where are the others? Time and space switched at the same time. Emolien chuckled and said to Arbor, Duanyu was the only one who sensed it earlier, so now. Chapter 3143. Everyone else had been dispersed by the sudden change in space-time, and only Duanyu, who was carrying the little monk, remained by their side. Duanyu, Sir Jojo called out softly. I'm next to you. Duanyu's voice suddenly popped up beside Emolien. The little monk grumbled. Benefactress, why are you speaking like a thief? Just be a little louder. There's no one else here besides us. Sir Jojo, why was the little monk so loathsome? Ever since they entered this mystic realm, he kept insulting her. Emolien giggled. Sigh, it's so dark here. According to that Mayan, it'll take another 8 hours before it turns into daytime. How about we sleep in Paradise Planet? Emolien suggested. Good idea. Duanyu immediately agreed. They couldn't do anything in this pitch black. It was truly pitch black everywhere. And they might not even be able to see 5 fingers if they stretched out their hands. So they might as well move after daybreak. Xiao Mu thought that it made sense, So she pulled them all into Paradise Planet with a thought. The scenery before them suddenly brightened, and a warm breeze blew against their faces. The temperature was just right, and they couldn't help but feel refreshed. The little monk jumped down from Duan Yu's hand and ran towards Arbor with a flutter of his small body. Benefactress. Arbor was just about to flick his little bald head when Qiuqiu's earth-shattering screams suddenly reached her ears. Master, a monster, a monster! A monster has mutated! When Xiaomu turned around, she saw Qiuqiu sprinting towards her with its 2 slender tree legs, and the 2 green leaves on its head swaying as it sprinted towards her like a mess in the wind. Master! It's a monster, it's a monster! A monster! Arbor grumpily punched Qiuqiu's head. Shut up! This child was getting noisier and noisier. Master Silver! The little treant pounced onto Arbor's leg, 1 step faster than the little monk. The little monk lowered his head and looked at his chubby hands and feet. He then looked up at the treant hanging on Arbor's body as a pendant. He frowned in distress. What should I do? The benefactress can't hold me anymore. Arbor was speechless as he pulled Sapling down. What's the matter? Speak clearly. Don't cry like a ghost and howl like a wolf every time you see her. Master Silver. The little treant sobbed. I really don't have long to live. The corners of Arbor's mouth twitched. He picked up the treant, walked to the peach blossom tree, sat down, and threw it on the stone table. Get to the point. Master, look. The little treant immediately pulled down the red belly band on its trunk, revealing its white eyes that were staring at them faintly. Emolien. Sure enough, this white eyes looked quite unsightly. Qiuqiu, shouldn't you be used to your little brother by now? Arbor said to Qiuqiu earnestly. Just treat it as a pendant on your body. It's an indispensable part of you. Don't you feel a bit better after thinking about it this way? Duan Yu. The little treant sobbed for a while before suddenly widening its eyes in horror. It stared at Arbor and exclaimed, It's not a pendant. I'm telling you, Master, it's a pervert. Its eyes can spit out eyeballs. It's disgusting. Utterly disgusting, Master. Emolien brought over a teapot from the side and poured a cup of tea for the 3 of them. She sat on the stone bench next to Jojo and looked at the little treant's eyes on its trunk. Chapter 3144. What eyeballs? Duan Yu was also sizing up the treant while holding his teacup. He felt like this guy was bragging. Eyeballs even fell out of its eyes. It spoke as if it was real. But wasn't it just trying to deceive Jojo? Sir Jojo expressionlessly stared at the sapling for a while before saying sternly, Qiuqiu, Master is telling you one last time. This eye can't be dug out. Once you dig it out, not only will it die, but you will also be heavily injured and possibly even more unlucky. You are already one with it now, so you should be very clear. So stop making up all kinds of ghost stories to scare your master. Master! Qiuqiu started wailing. Qiuqiu didn't lie to you. Everything Qiuqiu said is true. It really mutated, and its eyeballs will fall out. Look if you don't believe me. Qiuqiu's sapling hit the eye hard, causing it to blink. The eye rolled back and forth as it gloomily stared at Emolien, Duan Yu and Arbor. The 3 of them indeed felt their nerves tense up, and they felt a bit creeped out by the eye's stare. Suddenly, a black bead fell out of the white eye that opened again. Sir Jojo was already a bit tense to begin with, so he jumped in fright and landed on Emolien's lap. Prince Emo and Duan Yu both tensed up at the same time. The Crown Prince even reflexively caught Sir Jojo's small body as it bounced over. The 3 of them stared at the black bead that fell on the stone table. It really did look like an eyeball, but upon closer inspection, it wasn't an eyeball. It's a demon pupil! Arbor suddenly shouted and jumped down from Emolien's lap again. Don't be scared, Qiuqiu. It's not an eyeball, it's a demon pupil. Arbor looked like he had a sudden realization. This means that the demon pupil seed can already produce a demon pupil. This is your little brother. You've succeeded. Arbor picked up the magic eye that had fallen on the table and patted Qiuqiu's head. Qiuqiu, you should be proud. Master, it's a monster. Qiuqiu pointed at magic pupil in Arbor's hand and said in a trembling voice. Look. Qiuqiu suddenly took the magic eye from Arbor's hand and casually picked up a little white rabbit that was hopping over. With a wave of his hand, the demonic eye attached itself to the little white rabbit's butt. At first the little white rabbit jumped a few times, but then it stopped and looked back blankly. Qiuqiu suddenly pointed at a peach tree in front of them and said, "Go climb that tree." That little white rabbit ran to the bottom of the peach tree and really clawed at the tree trunk, desperately trying to climb up. Arbor, Emolien, and Duan Yu were a bit flabbergasted. After looking at it for a while, the little treant withdrew its demonic eye. After about half an hour, the rabbit returned to its original state. It looked left and right in a daze, then hurriedly flapped its 4 short legs and hid in the bushes. "Master, you saw it, right? The eyeball that this monster spat out can control any living thing. As long as that eyeball attaches itself to any part of someone's body, it can achieve its goal of controlling that person." Arbor was tongue-tied for a long time before he suddenly slapped the table with his paw in excitement. "Qiuqiu, how many did that demonic eye spit out?" Qiuqiu felt that Master's excited expression was a bit off. Chapter 3145. Shouldn't Master Silver be extremely indignant over the fact that this white-eyed human child had mutated into a monster? This excited tone didn't seem right. The little treant looked at its little master in shock. "Master Silver, why you want these eyeballs?" Yes. Hurry up and bring them over. Bring them all over. I buried them under the tree." The little treant ran to a peach tree with a bitter expression. It got a small shovel from somewhere and began shoveling the soil as it muttered, "Master, I advise you not to collect these eyeballs. Don't you think they look very creepy?" Arbor couldn't be bothered with the little treant and urged, "Stop dawdling. Hurry up and dig them out." The little treant dug until it jumped into the deep pit and continued shoveling the soil, throwing handfuls of soil out of the hole. Arbor was speechless. Just how much do you despise these demonic pupils that you would bury them so deeply? After less than an hour, the little treant, who was so busy that its eyes were staring blankly, stood in front of Qiao Mu with a dispirited expression. It blinked its beady black eyes and hugged a medium-sized square box. "Come, let Master see how many demon eyes you've collected. It's disgusting, Master. You'd better not look. What's there to be afraid of? These aren't real eyeballs." Arbor glanced at the little treant nonchalantly and opened the box. The box full of black eyeballs seemed to stare straight at them just like that. When the box was opened, a dozen eyeballs popped out, shocking Arbor. For a moment he was speechless. After closing the box with a bang, Arbor's mouth twitched and he coughed softly. "Your little brother has produced quite a lot of demon eyes." Qiuqiu turned its head sinisterly and looked at Arbor faintly. "Those eyeballs bred them on their own. They weren't spat out by this eye at all. From beginning to end, including the eyeball you saw fall, this eye has only spat out 3. Arbor was shocked. "What, Master? Didn't you notice that as soon as these eyeballs were taken out, they began to continuously absorb the spiritual energy in our paradise planet? They reproduce by relying on spiritual energy. That's why Qiuqiu buried them in such a deep place to isolate most of the spiritual energy." Qiao Mu could not help but shudder as she looked at the eyeballs that were leaking out of the box more and more until the lid was about to burst open. "Don't tell me that this thing will eventually breed until the entire paradise planet is filled with them." When he thought about how there were no more green mountains, clear waters, and peach blossoms in the peach blossom garden, there were only black eyes that covered the sky and earth. When Emolien and Duan Yu saw Jojo and Sapling shudder together, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Just use the fire spirit to isolate them." Emolien and Duan Yu raised their hands at the same time, and 2 fire spirits scuttled out, reinforcing that box that was about to collapse with a layer of fire spirit shackles. The duo's fire spirits were truly frightening, and that box calmed down upon contact. Soon after, those demon eyes scattered on the table were also bound by the duo's spiritual energy. With the fire spirit's shackles, those demon eyes completely calmed down. If they didn't stop, it was very likely that they would be devoured by the fire spirits. Arbor finally breathed a sigh of relief and looked back at the little treant. "Qiuqiu, how about we also seal the eyes on your body with fire spirits?" Qiuqiu immediately revealed a horrified expression. Chapter 3146. Oh my little master, please let Qiuqiu off. It was too frightening. She actually wanted to use the Devil Emperor fire and the holy fire to seal Qiuqiu's eyes. Then wouldn't that be sealing Qiuqiu as well? Why would my little master have such a strange idea? What on earth was she thinking? Letting a piece of wood spirit come into contact with fire, it didn't want to touch a single one of the two types of flames. Moreover, could Sir Qiuqiu handle those two perverts? Master, Qiuqiu can manage my underling well. I won't give it another chance to spit out eyeballs in the near future. Don't worry, I guarantee I'll complete my supervision mission. What's wrong with it? The little stoic was a bit perplexed when she saw Qiuqiu pick up the red doo-doo and hastily wrap it around itself before flipping off the table and running off crookedly in terror. I think Qiuqiu was probably frightened by you, Duan Yu said conscientiously as he set down his teacup. Sir Jojo was puzzled. What did I frighten it about? Qiuqiu. She called Qiuqiu's name and pulled the little monk over before strolling in the direction Qiuqiu had fled. She wanted to let Qiuqiu know that little master loved Qiuqiu. She and Qiuqiu were probably just lacking in communication. Lian helplessly watched the little fellow's departing figure before looking down at the table full of black beads. She picked up one and lightly flicked it with her finger. You can control any living thing, he muttered softly before saying, Guess, can it control a blade of grass or a tree? Duan Yu smiled. I guess your idea is going to ascend to the heavens. Emolian chuckled. It's pretty good. How about I pack a bag for you? Duan Yu raised his brows. That's fine too. Emolian shot the eyeball bullet out of the star domain and then glanced at Duan Yu. Guess what I saw? His finger moved, and he used spiritual energy to circle a scene that resembled flowing water. Duan Yu tilted his head to look and saw a furtive figure walking over from nearby amidst the darkness. After looking around for a while, he suddenly turned his head and looked behind him vigilantly. Seeing that there was no one around, he heaved a sigh of relief. He took out a luminous pearl from his inner world and slowly turned around. Then, he saw a half-rotten face that suddenly appeared in front of him. Ah! A ghastly scream rushed out of his throat. Duan Yu raised his brows slightly, but that flowing image was suddenly cut off. The demonic eye outside should have been trampled by someone, Emolian said expressionlessly. What's that sound? Qiao Qiao was attracted back by the ear-piercing scream. She suspiciously looked at the two men who were still sitting at the stone table drinking tea in the same posture. Did you two hear anything just now? Jojo. Emolian beckoned her over. Come over here quickly. I have something to tell you. Your demonic pupils are very useful. Is that so? Sir Jojo looked doubtful as he muttered. Isn't it just controlling some living things? Also, I reckon that it can only control some low-level spiritual plants and spiritual beasts. Don't even think about divine beasts and above. So when Sir Jojo thought about it carefully, he felt that it wasn't very useful. How could it not be very useful? Emolian winked at him with a grin. Hubby discovered a new use. What? Xiaomu's interest was piqued, and she quickly ran to his side with her short legs. Quickly tell me. Chapter 3147. Emolian took out another demonic eye and tossed it out of the star domain. Soon, the scene of the outside world appeared in a circular vortex formed by spiritual energy. Sir Jojo's eyes brightened. Hubby was smart indeed. By attaching the demonic eye to the plants in the outside world, he could control these plants and capture some scenes of the outside world. This way, it would be much more convenient for her to enter and leave the star domain. She didn't need to worry that she would be coincidentally seen when she left the star domain. Meanwhile, in the pitch-black scene of the outside world, a familiar-looking man was fighting with a zombie. That zombie was immensely strong. Even the ground cracked from its stomp, and there were continuous tremors everywhere. Presumably, the nearby mountain rocks were shattered by the force of its stomp. Is this person from our team? MHM. Duan Yu nodded. He's a student from the Hong Clan Academy. He was probably alone and had come here alone. Then, he was extremely unlucky to have bumped into a corpse puppet. The group of people who forced their way into the array probably brought a large number of zombies with them. Prince Emo said gravely. The team is in a bit of danger. Jojo, do you want us to go out and help him? Duan Yu asked. Arbor shook his head then eagerly shouted, I'll go. No. The two men immediately rejected her decision in unison. Wait until you recover, Emo Lien said exasperatedly. This little girl's head was not even as thick as a zombie's arm. She was simply fooling around. Xiao Xiao lowered her head and looked at her small hands and feet, feeling a little unconvinced in her heart. She had shrunk in size, not a drop in cultivation. These two people's rejection was completely unreasonable. Then let's go out together, Sir Jojo said after some thought. They had been in here for quite a while, and it should be less than an hour before it turned into day. Emolienne agreed after thinking about it this way. She reached out to hold the little fellow's hand and said, Jojo, it's not convenient for you to do anything with your short limbs. You have to take good care of yourself and be good. Duan Yu couldn't help but facepalm. Isn't this guy getting a little too full of himself? You're the one with short arms and legs. Your whole family is short-handed. The little guy's roar gave Fairy Yellow Crane, who was refining medicine on a distant deserted island, a fright. Master Jojo, when are you going to bring me back? Yellow Crane Fairy could not help but exclaim when she lifted her charcoal black face. Emolienne subconsciously reached out to dig her ears. She hurriedly picked up the little guy and said with a smile, Husband didn't mean that. Sir Jojo looked at him expressionlessly, then turned his little head and asked curiously, Did you hear Huang He's voice just now? Is Huang He calling for me? No. Emolienne pursed her lips. Fairy Yellow Crane is busy refining medicine on the island every day. Why would she call you? That's right. Jojo thought for a moment and nodded. Let's get out of here quickly. That guy can't hold on any longer. I'll go too. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal ran over from afar. This fellow had a slender figure and wore a bright red coquettish robe. As he ran, he brought along peach blossom petals that danced around his slender and jade-like body. It was as if there was a peach blossom rain, extremely gorgeous. Sir Jojo instantly felt that it was an eyesore. Chapter 3148. Emolienne felt even more stifled, especially when he saw the little fellow staring unblinkingly at that guy. He quickly turned his wifey's head back to face him. Hubby looks better in red than him. Sir Jojo's stoic face was unperturbed as he suddenly said, I know. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal had already flown to the two people's side. When he heard this, he was amused and raised his hand to snatch Sir Jojo from Emolienne's arms. Little lass, what do you know? Let this venerable tell you. Even if I claim to be number 2 in the world when I wear red, no one dares to claim to be number 1 in the world. Duan Yu truly couldn't bear to listen any longer. He silently walked to the side and said, I'll go out first. What's he doing? The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal blinked and turned to look at Duan Yu's back. He even paused in his attempt to snatch Sir Jojo from Emolienne. Disgusted by you, Emolienne quickly dodged his hand and left Paradise Planet with Duan Yu in a flash. As soon as they came out, a putrid stench assailed their nostrils. It was so dark that they couldn't see their own fingers. They heard the Hong Clan Academy's student shriek, and immediately after, they saw a cluster of silvery white flames ignite. It bounced onto the zombie's head with a whoosh, and also illuminated the area for a split second. At this moment, everyone could clearly see the situation around them. 2 zombies were currently hiding in the dark, drooling. As for the zombie that was fighting with the Hong Clan Academy student, half of its head had already been burned away. That Hong Clan Academy student was currently sitting on the ground, with a ghastly pale complexion. Arbor's gaze quickly swept over him. He only nodded when he saw that he wasn't injured. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal stretched out his hand. While Emolienne was looking at the students from the Hong Family Academy, he snatched Sir Jojo and carried him over. Then he waved at Emolienne and said, Go. Hurry up and deal with the other 2. Don't let them come over and discuss Jojo. Emolienne was extremely speechless. She looked at her empty hands, then turned back to look at Duan Yu, who was already fighting with 2 zombies. She couldn't be bothered to say anything to this rotten peach blossom, and flashed to Duan Yu's side. Sir Jojo was using his divine sense to observe the surroundings. Because it was too dark for words, he could not see anything clearly with his eyes. "Jojo, what are you looking at?" The venerable peach blossom immortal looked down at her in amusement. This little thing reminded him of the crybaby queen that Guanzhong had raised in the Tower of Punishment. Sir Jojo snorted and retracted his divine sense. Just as he was about to speak, he felt a sense of danger. Peach, before she could warn him, she felt that the venerable peach blossom immortal had already quickly shifted his position with her in his arms. As he turned around, a crimson man-eating flower abruptly emerged behind them. With a crunch, it viciously gnawed on the zombie that wanted to sneak attack them, including its skin and bones. TSK, there are still two hidden here. With a flick of the venerable peach blossom immortal's wrist, Arbor saw a wisp of green light in the darkness and flung it over at lightning speed. After two hisses, the roars of the zombies could be heard from the darkness. Then the venerable peach blossom immortal's wrist tightened, tightening the two vines that were restraining the zombies. The furious roars of the two corpse puppets weakened bit by bit until they finally stopped completely. Chapter 3149. Only the Hong Clan Academy student's heavy panting could be heard in the darkness. It was evident that he was terribly frightened. Mo Lien and Duan Yu had already returned to their side at this time, and they suddenly said in unison, "Be careful, time and space are about to change." Three figures flashed at the same time. Although the Hong Clan Academy student who was sitting paralyzed on the ground didn't know what was about to happen, his desire to live was still instinctive. He rolled on the ground and crawled in the direction of Duan Yu and Mo Lien's voices. At the same time, the light of day gradually appeared in front of him, and his vision gradually turned from blurry to clear. This scene of night and day alternating was clearly seen by everyone. The Hong Clan Academy student couldn't help but gasp. It was only now that he could clearly see that this day and night alternation caused the entire space of the mystic realm to turn upside down. During this slow rotation, all living things that came into contact with the boundary between the Sun realm and the Moon realm would be crushed into ashes by a powerful force. The Hong Clan Academy student's gaze fixated on the other end of the vine. On the other side of the taut vines, there were two ferocious-looking corpse puppets hanging in the air. As the Sun-Moon mystery realm intersected with each other, their bodies were slowly squeezed into transparent pieces at the intersection point. Then they disappeared completely. That student only felt his legs turn to jelly, and he didn't even have the strength to stand up. He sat there in a daze, stupefied as he stared at this scene of sun and moon alternation. He completely didn't realize that he was also being inverted by the sun-moon mystic realm. Due to the influence of gravity, he fell from the sky with an "ah" and fell into a pit with a bang. Only then did he shake his body and pull the face out of the pit. This guy couldn't be a retard, right? Sir Jojo was suspended in the air in the venerable peach blossom immortal's arms. He was currently expressionlessly looking at the idiot who crawled out of the pit. At the same time, the lone Mu Rochuan continued to climb in the dark. She felt that the rocks below her were extremely sharp, causing her knees and elbows to be abraded. She loudly called out, "Big brother, big brother," and couldn't help but feel a bit panicked. Big brother was actually so heartless, Mu Rochuan thought. Was he really going to abandon this sister of his? She didn't know how many hours had passed, but Big brother actually let her lie here alone and crawl like a dead dog? Was he really her biological big brother? Mu Rochuan wanted to scream, but she found that her whole body was weak and powerless. Traces of pain traveled back and forth in her veins, causing beads of sweat the size of soybeans to drip down from her forehead. "Ah, hate. Are you angry? Do you want to start over? Do you want to obtain new power?" That warm and gentle voice continued to reverberate in Mu Rochuan's ears. It was so gentle that it was as if waves of blue waves were brushing past her. The ebb and flow of the tide was constantly being replayed in her ears. Who's playing tricks? Who is it? Mu Rochuan suddenly turned around and saw that the scene inside the entire sun-moon mystery realm was slightly distorted. The small pebbles behind her were being crushed into powder bit by bit as the sun realm and the moon realm alternated. How pitiful. That voice came from behind her ears again. How could you be so careless? You're lying right at the boundary where the mystic realm alternates. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.